All right, everybody, it's another Tuesday night in the year 2025, and you all know what that means. It means we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, www.welikesportspc.com proudly presents to you its podcast Tag Team Champions of the World. The Cleat Geek, Mike Valentine, Gabriel Babyface over here in the corner. And we are the 643 and out guys. And you're listening to the Sportz Truth. Gabriel, how you been, buddy? Haven't seen you in a week, man. How's it going?
Michael, every now and then things line up, and I'll just say I think the podcasting, entities that be said, Michael, Gabriel, we're gonna throw a lot at you today. Good luck.
Oh yeah, buddy. We are going to do a lot today. You are 100% right, and I can't wait to get everything started. In fact, let me break a couple of things on my desk here. Look at that. Look at that. Snap that sucker right in half. All right, we're starting to show off great. So, before we get too far in it, though, because we need to push all this forward, we got a lot to get to. So let's do the walk-up music.
Are you ready? 20 seconds start now.
Already got comments coming in.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Time.
Oh, Gabriel, I tell you what, buddy, I am psyched. I am ready to go. We are going to do all kinds of stuff today. The football NFL schedule comes out tomorrow. Big thing. They're dragging this thing out. But we got a lot of stuff to talk about. We're going to go through and ask several questions. We got Dallas from Sons of Star podcast. He will be on with us shortly, and we're going to get everything rocking and rolling with that. Asking a ton of questions. We even have a couple of our Twitter poll questions up. We'll get to those as well. And then we're going to transport a little bit here. Already got comments coming in. Got 3 of them already in here. All right. So we're going to go from that to Major League Baseball. And then we're going to go back to football. But wait, let me explain. Today is National 513 Day because it is January, February, April, March. It is May 13th. 5. We do it in the air. 513. That's the area code of Cincinnati, Ohio. So we're going to go a little Cincinnati deep on our second hour of the show, talking about Trey Hendrickson with the Cincinnati Bengals and everything that's going on there. And then we're going to really focus our attention in on the guy who is now eligible to be elected into the Baseball Hall of Fame. And that, ladies and gentlemen, one Mr. Peter Edwin Rose. So all kinds of stuff going today. Music in the background sounds pretty good. Gabriel on the side. Dallas down below. He'll be on the screen with us in just a second. And we will be set and ready to go. All right. Got all that stuff cranking right along. Let's not waste a whole lot of time, Gabriel. How about I like the Spurs hat. You went with that one today, huh?
Yes, in case we talk about a certain league.
We might a little bit, but we got a lot of other stuff to get to. So I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. We'll see here. We're already NFL schedule time. Let's all look at that using the little calendar thing up there for us. Oh, I couldn't do that. I tell you that right
Very
now.
fancy. Very fancy.
Very, very fancy. We're saying, Gabe hates London games. I don't know. Do you, buddy? Do you hate London games?
Wait, no, I love a culture that's based around drinking. Why would I hate London games?
Of course you do. And now let me get this one in real quick before we bring Dallas up, because I think Dallas will like this one. Oh, America's team. We may have to ask him when he gets up here. But I tell you what, without further ado, Let's bring him up. Here he comes. The half of the host with his dad of the Sons of Star podcast. Here he is, Dallas. Hey, here you go, bud. How you doing, man?
Hey, thanks for having me, boys. Pleasure to be on the show today. I'm excited to talk some NFL schedule. I heard there's some Cubs questions in there as well, so I like it. Yeah, starting off how Cowboys America's team. It sounds a little sarcastic to me. It's usually what that is. So I guess they still are, whether you like it or not, the most profitable sports franchise in the world. But yeah, I guess America's team's always up and down, but sure, I guess we can call them that. I'm just trying to see them win some damn playoff games. I don't care if they're America's team, London's team, Brazil's team. That's all I want. But anyway,
I got it.
Thanks
So,
for having
Dallas,
me.
I'm gonna get specific with you for just a minute. Let's introduce you a little bit here and ask you a couple questions. All right. So,
Yeah.
how'd you become a Dallas Cowboys fan, Dallas?
Oh man. I post this podcast. I host the podcast with my father. We call him Cowboy Reg, absolute Cowboys legend. Grew up outside Chicago, but yeah, he's obviously diehard, profitable like Walmart. Hey, yeah, don't hate the player, hate the game. Yeah,
this is gonna be a fun show. I can tell
so
already.
he brought me into it. Yeah, he brought me into this Cowboys misery at a very young age, and that's all I knew. So I was just kind of raised on it.
I got you. So you also, if we get to the baseball questions here, which I hope we do, you're also a big Cubs fan. So how'd you go from Dallas Cowboys to Chicago Cubs? How'd that happen?
Well, like I said, I grew up close to Chicagoland, in Indiana, so about an hour outside Chicago. So I went to Chicago sports games growing up. Obviously, not going to be a Sox fan, worst team in the history of sports. But yeah, I grew up going to Cubs games. Love the Cubs, love the Bulls. I don't dislike the Bears. There's just really nothing there for me to even really care about. But I actually grew up in a time where they were good. The Colts were good. Obviously, the Packers are always good. So that's really where I grew up, where the teams were the most popular teams there. So there's a few Cowboys fans in my hometown, but not many. So it was a pretty brutal childhood, I'll be honest. Going through, they were awful. For the beginning of my childhood, obviously they won the Super Bowl the year I was born, and then after that, we haven't won anything since. But yeah, other than that, I love Chicago sports. But yeah.
All right.
I'm the curse.
So I'm going to ask you a couple questions here just to get to know you a little bit better, and then we'll have Gabriel come in with us too, and we're all going to start doing this thing with the NFL schedule here. So how about this? I want to ask you, to me at least, especially with this NFL schedule, the NFL has talked a lot about the Eagles and the Eagles games and everything else, right? So I think the Eagles are now the NFL's favorite NFC East team. Are you okay with that?
Sure.
Are you jealous? Or do they deserve it? Talk to me a little bit, Dallas.
Yeah, I don't care. They could be the most popular team. You can hype them up all you want. You still won't go to Philly for a game. That's for sure. So they may call them that. Philly's great if you keep your distance. But yeah, it always looks glorious on TV. It's like, these fans are so much fun. Yeah, they're passionate. Blah blah blah. Until you're getting stabbed in the parking lot. They're just not good people at the end of the day. None of them are. They're all scumbags up there. And if they want to, put them up on a pedestal, I say let them. But yeah, it is weird how they've changed. All of a sudden now it's like cool to be an Eagles fan. So good on you. I guess it's cool to be a scumbag.
Okay, why don't you tell us how you really feel, buddy? We're chopping that up, putting that out there. I can tell you that right now. So. So do you think the Packers and the Lions have also passed the Dallas Cowboys in the NFC as far as like popularity to the NFL?
Yeah, again, you Packers, I would say, were always there. They seem to have great nationwide fandom in Green Bay. I always thought that was really interesting. It was such a small market in that area, but they've really become so successful. They were, you got Lombardi and all the history there. The Lions, again, they're just the sweethearts because most of us are growing up and even generations and generations. We always remember the Lions sucking. And now they're, I guess, good. Very unfortunate what happened to the Lions last year with the injury, the injury bug. I mean, they didn't have anyone on defense, especially. So, yeah, and you see that with the Niners. They had a down year, obviously, but I'm sure they'll be back. And people love to, they're pretty popular in the NFC as well. But the Cowboys always, they're always going to be in the media. Jerry does a really good job with that. They're always going to be promoting the brand really well. And when you turn on ESPN, they're going to find their way to talk about the Cowboys. And most mainstream media will continue to push all these Cowboys narratives. But I have a feeling that maybe someone in the organization is trying to push them away from that a little bit. I think with the head coaching hire and some of the things they're doing in the draft and kind of behind the scenes. But at the end of the day, I think a lot of guys go to Dallas and they build their personal brand really well, and the star really props them up. So I think that'll always continue. But
All right.
yeah,
So
we'll see. I'll be interested to see in 20, 30 years how the Cowboys do when it comes to national media. But I would assume as long as I'm alive, it'll always be the same until I'm proven otherwise.
all right, sounds good. So last question that I'm going to ask you specifically about the Cowboys, Gabriel. I'm going to actually ask you first, then I'm going to get Dallas's opinion on it. Then we're going to jump into this whole NFL schedule release deal here. So I don't know if you guys saw it, but earlier today, Dallas's good friend, and I'm sure he's talked to him several times, Troy Aikman was on Good Morning America this morning, and he picked the Dallas Cowboys, saying that they were going to win the Super Bowl. So here's what I'd like for you to find out. Gabriel, I'd like for you to answer me first. Would you rather ex-players like that, whether it be your team, Dallas's team, whatever it is, do you like it when they come on and they're all cocky on shows and talk smack? Or would you rather them just shut their mouths and go on with their lives?
Nah, talk your piece. Say whatever you want. If Buddy thinks his Cowboys are gonna win the Super Bowl, let him say it. It'll be that much more glorious when they struggle to even approach 500. So I go ahead, Troy. Be as delusional as you want.
Uh, no fight. Okay. I mean, I know you guys are clear across the country from
That's
each
all right.
other, but no fighting on here. Dallas, what do you think, man? You think people like that, it's your guy, Troy Aikman. Would you rather him not talk at all and just shut his mouth, or do you like it when they get on there and take it for your team?
Yeah, that's weird coming from Troy Aikman, if I'm being honest. I always thought he was a huge critic of the Dallas Cowboys in the media, especially when he's calling a game. Um, I'm not, I mean, look, I never got to watch him play live, so I could really, this is going to sound really bad. I don't really care for Troy Aikman, if I'm being honest. I don't think he's always, you know, he's always been very critical of the Dallas Cowboys, and I've always thought, if you're going to be that critical, why don't you step in and try and help the organization? Why don't you step in and try to mentor some of the quarterbacks? You see Michael Irvin do that with the wide receiver room.
Mhm.
I just always thought, Troy was a national media guy, and that's what he turned into. He did a lot of great things with Dallas Cowboys, considered one, if not the best Dallas Cowboys quarterback ever. But I always thought he was very critical of the Cowboys. So it's interesting to hear him say that. I don't take much stock in it. And it's interesting to say it this year because I don't think that the Dallas Cowboys are going to be that great this year.
And now I will have to say, I kind of said this tongue in cheek just to get everybody's opinion on it real fast. But Michael Strahan was right beside of him when he said it, so it could have been more of a tongue in cheek thing from Troy Aikman too, just because he's rousing, he's rubbing Strahan the wrong way there on purpose. So that could have been it as well. But let's get into this NFL schedule thing. So the NFL schedule will actually be revealed in its entirety tomorrow, 8 p.m. Eastern time on the NFL Network. So Dallas, I'm going to ask you first, on a scale of 1 to 10. Where does your excitement land as far as the actual reveal of all the NFL games coming up, all 272 of them tomorrow?
Oh man, they're really dragging this thing out, and I find it a little annoying. I mean, I don't remember it ever being such a big deal. I know they kind of did this in last year. I don't know how they used to do it in the past when I was growing up, but they just it's become too much of a big of a deal. Like they're revealing some games. You got 26 networks you got to watch the games on. They're all doing their own little reveal show. Just release the damn schedule already. I mean, it's just you already know what teams you're playing, but the schedule matters. Don't get me wrong. I think it matters a ton. The order in which you play good teams, where your bye week is, all that good stuff. But at the end of the day, just release the damn thing. Don't make it this big spectacle. We don't care. We just had the draft. What else? What else do we need to? to watch. Just release it.
But we talked about it off air a little bit. This is just another way for the NFL to make money, right? Just another way for the NFL to be on every talk show like we're doing right now. This is, it's
Yeah.
the machine of the NFL. So Gabriel, what do you think? Where's your excitement level at for tomorrow night, 1 to 10? Where are you at, Gabriel?
Yeah, so I could be somewhat anticipatory of it, I suppose. Be like, okay, I guess I'm fine. I'm looking forward to this saga ending because that's what it is now, a saga. At the same time, it's something that we'll do, and I'll be happy to do it. It's something I certainly do on my own platform. But it is silly to go in. What are we in? I had to look at what month we're in. We're in May, and to kind of go line by line. Okay, this one's going to be a win. This one's going to be a loss. This one's going to be a win. We have no idea how the teams are going to look. We have no idea what last moment injuries are going to happen. So to sit here now and start penciling in wins in October, like it's fun. It's fun. It's part of what we do. It's the media machine and all that you have. But at the end of the day, it's not too terribly relevant.
Okay, so the NFL scheduling formula has 5 basic rules to determine games. So the first rule is this: 6 of the 17 games are home and away against your division foes. 4 more of those 17 games are 4 teams from another division that's within your conference, and you do 2 home and 2 away, and that rotates every 3 years. Not to get too deep into it, but I do want to explain how all this works so we can go through and dissect it. And then 4 more of these 17 are teams play 4 teams from another division in the opposite conference, and they do it also 2 home and 2 away, and that rotates every 4 years. So as far as those 3, the first 3 of the 5 rules, Gabriel, do you think this is a fair way to make the schedule, or would you like to see it done some other way?
No, I'm okay with it. I very much am. It's one of the things that I love college football, as you know. It's one of the things that I don't like about college football is the uneven scheduling. Yeah, I think it's absolutely ridiculous when a certain team is able to schedule Mercer in November. I think it's ridiculous. So yeah, I'm very much okay with this and the divisional aspect. That being said, if you're in a certain, let's just throw out a garbage division out there, NFC South. If you're in the NFC South, just because you happen to win that atrocious division, doesn't mean you should host a football game. Come the playoffs.
I understand that, but that's also the nature of sports, right? So Dallas, I'm going to go down to you for a second. What about how the NFL schedules these the first 14 games? How, are you okay with it? Is it fair? Would you like to see something changed? Talk to us a second here, Dallas.
Yeah, I like it. I like going to the different divisions. And I think it makes it fun for the most part because you get to play, all the teams, and each division for the most part has like an identity, in my opinion. Like last year, the Cowboys, I remember playing the AFC North, which I knew was going to be brutal, right? So it makes it interesting that way because they all play a similar brand of football. Um, yeah, so I don't mind it. It's good. I think it's fair. They rotate it every now and then. Um, it's luck of the draw. These divisions are going to be up and down, and you can really see how your team stacks up against some of the best divisions in the league. And if you're lucky, you get to play, like Gabriel said, the AFC South, and you're like, all right, now we can get some wins. But yeah, it's interesting. I would like to see some things change with the schedule, but not necessarily that. I'm fine with that.
Okay, so we're just getting started, right? Well, I'm sure we'll get some things that we want to change here before it's all said and done. 50 viewers, by the way, with us live right now, so we certainly appreciate that. We'll take another look at some other stuff here as well. So we've got the first 14 games. 2 of those 17 games are intra-conference games based on last year's standings. So in other words, when you play another team, so it's intra-conference games. That means from another division, but within your conference. The first place team in your division is going to play the first place team in the other division, and the second place against the second, and the third against the third, and so on and so forth. And then that final game of the 17 is one inter-conference game, so outside of your division, based on last year's standings. And they rotate. So the odd years, the AFC hosts, and the even years, the NFC is the host. So as far as home and away. So that's how they get all 17 games. So do you think that whoever hosts that last game, that's not really the last game, but one of those 17 games, do you think that's a big advantage for that team hosting that one out of the 17 games, Dallas?
Yeah, I mean, it usually is. Generally, teams, this is groundbreaking stuff I'm about to say, but generally teams play better at home. But I think it depends. Depends when the game is and where. I know, bravo, right?
Yeah, that was
Wisdom
good,
from a
buddy.
Cowboys fan. Yeah.
Riveting stuff there,
But
sir.
it depends where you're at. It depends where you're at. If you're the Buffalo Bills and you get to host, the a team from your division, let's say the Jaguars, right? Something like that. Then that's a huge advantage. Yeah, absolutely. So it depends what time of year it is. But the same thing goes for northern teams going down south, right? So if you got to play in Tampa Bay or you got to play in Jacksonville or something in August or September, it's going to be the same way with the weather. So I think it always depends. But like I said, yeah, it's definitely an advantage, but that's not always the case. The Cowboys played awful at home last year. They had that huge streak. They won like 16 games, and their home record last year was terrible. So it wasn't really an advantage for them. So sometimes teams, like I said, crazy stuff. But sometimes it's good, like if you're the Cowboys, to get away from all the hype and the nonsense, is go on the road. And a lot of teams are more focused on the road than they are at home. They got distractions. They're staying at their houses instead of a hotel with their teammates. So there's all kinds of factors to consider. But overall, to answer your question, I would say it's an advantage as long as you play well at home.
So, Gabriel, would you agree with Dallas that it's an advantage to host that 17th game?
Yeah, I like what Dallas is saying. I'm going to roughly paraphrase what you just said here, Dallas. It could be an advantage in most cases, yeah, but it's certainly even. It's an even application of the same rule. And listen, some teams play better on the road, and that could be for a bunch of reasons. More importantly, some teams just want to not play at home. The New York teams, they can use a break from the New York media at a certain time, and certainly what Dallas just said about his Cowboys. They just weren't playing well in Arlington, and they found some success on the road. I'll also just say it kind of depends where you are at that point. It'll depend too what you're chasing and how the other teams are. Uh, let's say, and now this is just again me. I'm going to say a random team. Let's say that you're not the one hosting, but you get to travel to the Panthers. I think you'll take that. I think you'll absolutely take that.
Okay. So, yeah, I guess it can be. I mean, I think we all say it's an advantage, but, here we go. Breaking news. And what's the breaking news? Oh, right at home. Huh.
Hey,
Appreciate it,
Okay.
Ricky.
you have to credit Dallas. You have to credit
Right,
Dallas, Ricky.
right. At least people agree with you, buddy. I mean, I've said some
Yeah,
hard
hey,
things
I'm
I
not
think in the
lying.
past.
I'm not coming on here to lie. I'm trying to tell you how it is.
All right, gentlemen. So Gabriel, I'm going to go up top, start with you here for a second. Do you think the NFL should just be done and just go to an 18-team schedule already? Why are we doing this odd thing right now?
It is, yeah. That's the thing that I think is, why are we still in this middle ground? I don't know. Yeah, we all know what's coming. Just like in college basketball, we know that there's about to be a 526 team March Madness tournament. We all know that that's coming. So I don't know. I guess they're trying to ease us into it, quote unquote. Just get it done, Mr. Goodell.
Right, Dallas. How about you, man? You like 17, or you just want to be done with it and go to 18?
Man, the reason I love football, like what Gabriel said earlier, college football to me is so much more interesting week to week because you only have 12 games, right? And then obviously they're adding more and more in now, and they're kind of going the same way as the NFL. But to me, football is better when there's less games. I like 16. I didn't like the move to 17, but I think there's ways that you could adjust the schedule with 18 games to make it better. But at the end of the day, when does it stop? That's my thing. Is like it's always great, the expansion, blah blah blah. It's like the college football playoff. We finally got what we wanted, and now it's like, well, we got to make it bigger. Like, when does it end, man? So you gotta draw the line in the sand at some point, and they're gonna have the NFL's gonna have to figure that out, of that perfect formula of, obviously right now the strategy is the more games we play and the more countries we play them, we're gonna expand the market, we're gonna make money. But I think at some point you oversaturate it, and then you need to shrink it back down because you lose interest, right? I mean, I love baseball. I mean, 162 games, that's too many damn games, man. I don't care what you're playing, right? That's too many. 162 times is too many times to do any activity, really. That's a lot. Um, and I'm there. I try to watch as many Cubs games as humanly possible, but 162, man, there's no way I'm going to watch all those games. So, not saying the NFL is going to go to that, but even some of the other leagues, I think, they're floating with these ideas of like, should we? I don't think the players want to do it. So, are they going to be interested for 18 weeks? Are the games going to matter as much week to week? That they're likely not. So they're going to have to figure that out. But I think it's weird to have an odd number. So I can't think of another sports league that has an odd number of games. So just make it 18, I guess. And then,
Yeah.
when will it
Do
end?
it for Dallas. It's bothering
Right?
him. Do it for Dallas.
Do it for Dallas. Do it for Dallas.
Yeah.
I wanted to leave this up here because it says the Giants do not play better at home. I don't think the Giants play better at home or away, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I was waiting on, I was waiting on Dallas to finish his explanation there, and I was like, "Yeah, on it." I was gonna get to it. I swear. So, all right. So, obviously, I tell you what. I have a suggestion. Let me give you my suggestion and see if I've floated this on this show before, and I'm going to say it again. So if you start the season 1 week earlier and you push it forward 1 week longer, you will actually get, and you can do 18 games. You can then do 2 bye weeks, one in the first 9 and one in the second 9. I like that. I like that concept, giving the fellas 2 weeks off within the season. Then you can have the Super Bowl, basically. That'll push the Super Bowl out to the long President's Day weekend. And why wouldn't you want to have the Super Bowl on a holiday weekend, right? I mean, give me an extra day to recoup when I'm doing all the crazy stuff I'm doing on Sunday, so I don't have to go to work on Monday. So, I think you can do that. You can do September 4th. The regular season this year will be September 4th through January 4th. And then the Super Bowl, if you guys want to go ahead and ask off for work and all that stuff and get everything ready, it will be Levi Stadium, February the 8th. So here's a few games that we already know. As Dallas and I were talking off air before we came on. By the way, that's what off air means. It's before we come on. And I'm doing the smart stuff with Dallas here too. So
Hey, it's contagious.
It is. So which Chiefs matchup do you think is more interesting, gentlemen? We're going to use the Chiefs here. The Ravens at the Chiefs, the Lions at the Chiefs, the Eagles at the Chiefs, or the Chiefs at the Cowboys. So let me give you the 4 games again. Gabriel, I'll start with you. Which one of these 4 games that involve the Chiefs do you think is the most interesting? It'll be Ravens at the Chiefs, Lions at the Chiefs, Eagles at the Chiefs, or Chiefs at the Cowboys.
I definitely want to see Lions. You said at the Chiefs.
Yes.
I think that this is a Lions team. Dallas mentioned this earlier, that was definitely unfortunate in terms of injuries. But even so, they had an overall really good showing of themselves even after that. And now you're getting Aiden Hutchinson back. A lot of people like what they did in the draft. The only thing, and I'm hesitating here now a little bit, it's like the only thing that is really a concern, and I'm saying only in quotation marks, is a huge thing, is their coordinator positions. You lose Aaron Campbell, you lose Ben Johnson. If they had run back a lot of that staff back and everything else, then I would actually say I thought the Chiefs kind of held on toward the end, as we saw in the Super Bowl, and I think the Lions are now going to be better positioned, but against Coach Reed now on defense, that's that chess match. And then what you do against Coach Spagnuolo on offense, that's going to be a really interesting matchup. So that would be my answer for that.
All right, Alice, how about yourself? Which one of those games involving the Chiefs do you think is going to be the most interesting?
Well, for me, obviously it's the Cowboys game, but I don't necessarily think that'll be the most interesting. But the Super Bowl rematch is always great, but I don't look to the Chiefs to be the favorite out of the AFC next year. If I'm being honest, maybe the Eagles will be the favorite out of the NFC. I guess I could go check the odds right now if I wanted to, but I would have to agree with Gabriel. To me, it's the Lions at the Chiefs because I'm really interested to see what the Lions will be like this year. I think we've seen Ravens at Chiefs a lot, and who cares if the Ravens go and beat them in the regular season because they just can't get over the hump in the playoffs. So that would be a very interesting playoff game, but I'm not really interested in it in the regular season. Lions at Chiefs should be interesting regular season game. Again, depending on when it's at during the season, it's got a lot of factors in there, right? Yeah, I expect the Chiefs to finally maybe be down a little bit this year. I think they're aging a little bit overall. You just can't sustain that success for that long. I'm not saying they're not going to make the playoffs, but I'm looking for some other AFC teams to finally step up. But yeah, that if the Chiefs are great again and the Lions are trending upwards, it should be a really good matchup. It's all like you said. They also play interesting brands of football.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree with all of that. But I tell you what, I want to throw this stat out there at you because I was kind of hoping both of you, or at least one of you, would pick the Lions game. I had this stat written in here. I think it's very interesting. So, 8 of the 9 Lions opponents that they play on the road this coming year actually had a winning record last season. So that's going to be a tall test for them. We're talking about we're not real sure how good they're going to be, and this schedule is not doing them any favors either. So it'll be interesting. 7 international games this year. We're going to go to Brazil. You're going to go to Ireland. You're going to go to London twice, Berlin, Germany, and Madrid, Spain. So, Dallas, I'll ask you, how do you feel about 7 international games? Too many? Not enough? Or you just don't care? And it's our Twitter poll question. We'll go over it here in a moment. We put that out there. But, Dallas, I'm going to ask you first. You tell us how you either did vote or would have voted, buddy.
I said it's too many, man. That's a lot of international games. I like to ease into my NFL Sundays. I hate when the game's on at 8:30 in the freaking morning. I don't know, man. It seems like a lot. It seems like a lot to me. I understand what they're doing. They're expanding the market. The one thing I'll say is they've it seems to be very successful. It seems like every time they do it, it's a great atmosphere. A lot of people show up to the games. I know they had some concerns when they were in Brazil last year, but it seemed to go just fine. Um, Ireland should be pretty cool. College footballs, they do that every year. And it seems to be successful over there. But yeah, that's what it really seems to be. I don't know how many NFL fans choose to travel to those games, like to watch their team. Um, I thought it would, I mean, that could be fun, but I think locally is where they have the success. But I don't know what they're trying to do. Again, I'm going to say the same thing. When does it end, right? They just continue to put more and more out there. Eventually, every team's going to have to go international. Like, I don't know. Are they going to have like their dedicated place to go? See some random Irish guy wear a Jaguars jersey. I mean, it's really weird, but they eat it up. So I know like the Premier League comes over to the United States all the time, but I don't go watch it. So I don't know. But yeah, to me, it's too many.
Okay, understood. So Dallas, or excuse me, Gabriel. Before I let you talk here for a sec, before I let you listen at me, like I've got some kind of choker collar around your neck or something. So let me give you the actual games before you give us your opinion on the schedule. So actually, the first one is week 1. Week 1, they'll be in Brazil. It'll be Chargers and Chiefs because they've already announced all 7 international games. Ireland will be week 4. It'll be Steelers and Vikings. And then the next week in week 5 in London, it's the Browns and the Vikings. By the way, the Vikings will make history this year. They will be the first team in NFL to ever do 2 international games back to back in 2 different cities. Wow. So that'll be wild. Week 4 against the Steelers. Week 5 against the Browns for the Vikings. Week 6 Jets versus the Broncos. Week 7 is in London. Jaguars and the Rams. Then it jumps to week 10. Colts and Falcons, and then it goes to Spain in week 11, and that will be Dolphins and Commanders. So those are the 7 international games and the teams that will be in them. Gabriel, what do you think about having 7 games? And then I'll tell you what our fans think here as they voted for it on the Twitter poll question. So what do you think about 7 international games this year, Gabriel?
Yeah, what I think 7 is. I think 7's fine. I think what's going to actually end up happening is each team is going to have their designated city as their so for the Patriots it'll be Munich, for example. I think it's going to end up being like the Philadelphia Eagles will be Brazil, for example. And once they expand, then you give the double bye on the back end of both. And that's then just how that'll end up being. I think that'll just become a regular part of the NFL schedules here sooner rather than later because of the success. And let's not forget too, there are a lot of Americans overseas because of the military bases. So yeah, there's a ton of excitement locally among, you know, the fans, among the people in whichever country that they are playing in, but there are also a lot of military members who they might be a Cardinals fans, but when they have the chance to go watch any NFL game, they're more than willing to make that trip there. So this is something that I think is also probably part of it, with the salute to service aspect of it too. You know, like, okay, we're over here overseas now, let's do something additional for the troops.
Okay.
That's a good point. I didn't even think about that.
Just back to Dallas here for a second, because I know Gabriel probably doesn't know. I'm sure many of our fans know who always watch Sons of Star podcast that Dallas and his dad host. Both of them are military veterans right now. Dallas, you're currently serving, correct?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, currently in the Air Force still. So that's a
All
great
right.
point, Gabriel. So I didn't even think about it like that, but that actually makes a lot of sense. Yeah, so you have folks in Spain, London, not necessarily Brazil, but maybe not Ireland, but that's a quick trip from the UK. So yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. Gabriel, or not Gabriel, Dallas, you ever been overseas anywhere with your trips in the Air Force or anything, buddy?
Yeah, I've been to Kuwait in the Middle East, and doesn't look like they're putting any games there anytime soon. But I mean, they did have the World Cup in Qatar a few years ago, so maybe they will expand there. Who knows? You know, they could go. They could probably do that, or maybe UAE or something like that. Who knows?
They do have a huge stadium
But
over
yeah,
there. I mean, well, they've got more than one. WWE's over there all the time now, like 2 or 3 times a year.
yeah.
Like you said, soccer's over there a lot. So I'm sure they
I
could if
wouldn't be
they wanted
surprised
to.
if they made it over there at some point. Yeah,
Mhm.
or like Dubai. Yeah, why not?
All right. So the Thursday night games, every team has to be involved in the Thursday night game. Do you like that or not? I mean, it makes for some terrible matchups, but if you're a
Oh
fan of
man.
that team, you know that somewhere along the line, some Thursday night, you're going to get to watch your team all by themselves, not any competition, and some of those teams need to be by themselves and with no competition. So Dallas, I'll ask you first, right? What do you think about the rule the NFL has right now, where every team has to be in a Thursday night game?
I love Thursday night games. Honestly, I like them more than Monday night. Sunday night's always. I actually like them more than Sunday night most of the time too, because when I look at Thursday night games, I got one more day of the week, right? I got on Friday. I usually enjoy those games, stay up a little later, watch those games. It seems like it's the beginning of the NFL weekend, Thursday night, and then you got college football coming up the next night, and then Saturday into Sunday. I've always been a big fan of Thursday night games, but they've really sucked recently. They have. I actually like Amazon Prime. I like what they do. I like I don't know who's going to be on there with Kurt this year though. Isn't Al retired?
To be honest, I don't know. I didn't look that far into it, but I like Kirk
I
really
think
well.
he
I can
is.
tell you
I think
that.
Al Michaels did. Yeah, I think Al Michaels did retire, so I don't know who's joining him, but I don't mind if there was just some better games on. It'd be nice. Maybe that'll help by having every team, um, have to play a Thursday night game. But I don't mind Thursday night. It usually you can work around it, and it's a short week. But on the back end of that, um, you get those like 10 days of rest. It's almost like a little bye week. So if you just get through those games, and it's also I remember what was it this year? The Cowboys had or last year they had that brutal loss to um well, they lost to the Saints and they lost to they had a lot of losses last year, but they lost to I believe it was the Ravens and then played the Giants on a Thursday night. And I remember them saying, okay, like you don't even have time to think about that loss, like focus on Thursday and they got to win. So it can be a good thing. You could lose a brutal game on Sunday or a tough game on Sunday. You can turn that around really quickly and say, throw that away. But it's a good way to get 2 losses within 4 days. So that can really hurt you too. You got to be careful with it. And then you get that 10 days of rest on the back end. But I always like the Thursday night games, to answer your question in a 15-minute
right.
answer.
No, that's fine. That's fine, Gabriel. Before you comment here, I have to click this button because we got a question. I think it's more of a snide comment than it is a question, but I'll throw it up here anyway. Asking Dallas, hey Dallas, how
Oh
come
yeah.
Jerry does not use curtains on the west end zone to block the sun? Uh, I'm not even going to leave that.
Oh, it's all right. Answer your question is because it's if the sun's not in Jerry's eyes, he doesn't care as long as he can watch a game. He doesn't care about the guys being blinded out there or the fans being blinded. It makes zero sense. They have the curtains. They do it for like the concerts and stuff. It's nonsense. I mean, I don't understand it at all. I don't know why they built the stadium facing that way. You would think they would think that out. Yeah, don't get me fired up, AE. I don't know who that is, man. You're getting my blood boiling over here. Don't get me talking about Jerry.
Okay, just keep drinking your Diet Coke there, Dallas, and I'll ask Gabriel. What do you think about the Thursday night schedule, Gabriel?
Oh, AE is short for Agamemnon, just so you know. But yeah.
He's one of your friends then.
Oh yeah, me and Agamemnon go back way back. But yeah. So in terms of Thursday night, I love it. You won't see me not by the television on a Thursday. If it's football on, listen, I don't care. It could be Wednesday at midnight. It can be primetime Sunday when games typically should
Those
be.
COVID game, that COVID times, you had a week with a game every night. I don't know if y'all remember that. They were always moving the games around Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah.
Wednesday night football,
right.
yeah.
What a life that was! How great was that? But I will say the part that does concern me now is the turnaround. You do get that mini bye toward the back end, like Dallas said, but 4 days for a football game, that's asking a lot out of the players. So again, if we're gonna ask players to go internationally, I'd like to see a form of a double bye. And if we're gonna ask players to play on a Thursday, having played on a Sunday, and goodness knows, what if it's the Sunday night game as well, right? That's even less recovery time. I just like to see a double bye there as well. So am I asking for a scheduling hectic nightmare? I guess, but I don't know. Can you employ someone to maybe figure that out? Do you have access to Google spreadsheet? It's something that'd be fairly decently workable.
I don't know about the whole spreadsheet and all that kind of stuff. I'm not real great with all those things, but there's a way I'm sure you could do it. Now, let me ask you this: so what if we had a bye week, and then the week after the bye, like when you come back, then one of those 4 teams they give the bye weeks to, it's usually 4 teams, not always 4 teams, but it's usually 4. One of those or 2 of those 4 teams didn't have to play the Thursday night game, so they have the bye, and then they come back and they play the Thursday night game. So it's not a 4-day. It's never just 4 days in between. It's like a week and then 4 days.
Look, you just did it. What was that? The work of 30 seconds.
Well, I mean, every once in a while.
Yeah, unfortunately,
the
NFL's got. Yeah, they're just trying to some serious wisdom being thrown around tonight. But again, I think they're just looking for the match. It's more about the matchups than what makes sense at the end of the day, right? It's all about ratings. It's a business. So I mean, they probably could work it out that way, but then you'd have, Raiders, Jaguars on Thursday night, and they'd be like, I might just pack it in and watch. I got a 13-month-old son, so I'm just gonna watch Miss Rachel. I mean, I'm not watching that.
Understood.
Good program. That's a good show.
I don't even know what show you're talking about because I'm an old man. I don't have to watch cartoons anymore, so I don't know. No grandkids for me or anything, so I'm good. Dallas, I'll start with you. It doesn't look like they've announced it now. Cowboys and Eagles Thursday night, the very first Thursday night game of the season. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. On the road at Philly, Philly's looking like obviously a better team. I think the Cowboys are 7-point underdogs in that game, which is crazy that they have a spread already. Yeah, I mean, at first I'm like, oh, great. It's a ratings, masterpiece done by the NFL for sure to throw any divisional rivalry like that or any, whether it be Bears, Packers, anything like that you could throw on first game of the year. It's going to be super hype. I actually like it for the Cowboys, though, weirdly, as I'm thinking about it. I think about the Eagles getting their rings, hanging the banner. I would rather be the underdog there. I think Philly, and you always want to get a good team on the first week early on in the season, and try to catch them. When we're not they don't have some of the kinks worked out yet, and maybe they're losing focus. I think the Cowboys actually really like it to maybe steal a game on the road, kind of sneak one in, and if you lose on week one to a team that's supposed to be a lot better than you, so be it. You got 16 more. So I actually think it's a good scheduling aspect, and maybe especially with how the Cowboys operate, if they just go out there and lay an egg on week one, they'll just write him off for the rest of the year, and then maybe they can surprise somebody. But I don't mind it. It should be fun. I just hope the Cowboys can, like I said, maybe sneak away with a little win there.
Gabriel, what do you think about the first game of the NFL season on Thursday night, Chiefs and Cowboys? It'll be, let's see, which one is it? Hold on, it's Cowboys. I'm sorry, Cowboys at the Eagles. That's what it is. I said
Cowboys Chiefs. At the Eagles. Yeah, Dallas. I'm asking for a favor. I recognize we just met, but I'm asking for a favor. Can you beat the Eagles on the first day of the season? That'd be awesome.
That would be nice. That would be very nice. I'd be very happy.
And of course, I'm going to point out.
I'll do my best. Look, I'll do my best. I'll send some messages to all the players and tell them, look, man, I know teams are good at home, but hey, maybe some teams aren't as good at home. So you guys can do it. Maybe they'll put me in the locker room. Worst motivational speech of all time.
He'll be the guy on the sideline saying really smart things like whoever scores the most points is going to win the game or something like that. Right?
Yeah. Look, you just got to go. Look, it's not yeah.
I wanted to point out our buddy here who's commenting on us right now. The Pacers won, and it's Grover for Cleveland. I'm not real sure what that means, but I take it that what does that mean? Cleveland lost the series.
Yeah. It's not looking good for you.
No.
I thought you identify more with Cincy, don't you, Michael?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
The gentleman who just commented on that post right there will be our special guest next week here on the Sportz Truth podcast. So we look forward to that as well. Myself, Gabriel, and his buddy who writes for www.welikesportspc.com and does the Mets for us. So we'll have him on right here next week. Let's throw out a few of these games. I'm going to give you 4. Tell me which one is the most interesting to you. Bengals at Packers, Seahawks at Steelers, Broncos at Commanders, Eagles at Chargers. Just looking at a few different things, we already know that those matchups are going to happen. So I'll give them to you again. Bengals at Packers, Seahawks, Steelers, Broncos at the Commanders, and Eagles, Chargers. Gabriel, what do you think? Most intriguing matchup to you of those 4?
Keyword being intriguing. I like Broncos, Commanders. Here's why. I think that it's a little bit of fool's gold what people saw last year with Bo Nix. By all means, he went out there and did what he needed to do. So you can't slight him for that. I do think that we're going to see a regression there, but I don't know. And I think against Washington defense, they have made some upgrades, but by all means, it's definitely porous. It's definitely one that you can that can be had. So if I'm right, I think we're going to see a regression, but that'd be an excellent game for Bo Nix to kind of show, hey, I can still throw for 350 and 3 touchdowns. And then conversely, on the other side, the Jaden Daniels is going to have the much tougher assignment going up against the Broncos defense. Even if you think it's overrated, fine. It's still one of the better defenses. So we could get something of a shootout or either way, I think we get a good game though.
All right. I failed to tell you guys earlier. Let's see, 146 people have looked at our poll question. I didn't give you the results, but it's 75% agreeing with Dallas saying that 7 games is too many, and then 25% said it was just enough. Nobody said I didn't care, and nobody said it was not enough. So here we go.
All right.
That's the results there. So Dallas, I'm going to give you those games again. Bengals, Packers, Seahawks, Steelers, Broncos, Commanders, Eagles, Chargers. Which one are you looking at as far as the intrigue factor?
Bengals Packers, man, that should be good. I hope that's late. Do you have the weeks for that? Do you know when that game is, or is it just one
No,
of the
I don't
matchups?
have any of that yet. I can tell
Yeah,
you, the Bengals will be the first Sunday night game. That's been announced. So the first Sunday night game of Week 1 will be Bengals at Bills. That should be an interesting
oh,
game to
that's
break
amazing.
this week Sunday night.
Yeah,
So
those are always good. Yeah, the Bengals were must-watch TV last year, man. They for better or for worse, they were always in battles, man. That I love watching Joe Burrow ever since college, man. And I was actually living where I live now in South Mississippi when he was at LSU, and it's kind of LSU country down there, so it was fun. I actually went to go watch them that year when they played Ole Miss, so that was fun. But yeah, I love watching Joe Burrow. He's one of my favorite NFL guys. And the Bengals are, they're set up to be very similar as they were last year. That high-powered offense, and just trying to score more points than the other team because that defense is going to probably struggle again. So it's going to be a lot of high scoring games. And whenever you go to Green Bay, weird things happen. That should be a really fun game. So I'll make sure to watch that. Hopefully it's a primetime game in some chilly weather. That'll be a fun one for sure.
all right, sounds good. Let's talk about the flexible schedule for a moment. So this is a little complicated, but I'm going to read it because this is exactly how it works and how the NFL looks at it. So Sunday night, you can flex the schedule twice between weeks 5 and 10, and then Sunday night football can flex it anytime between weeks 11 and 17. They got a lot of power there. Monday nights can do it anytime between weeks 12 and 17, and Thursday night can actually flex the games anytime between weeks 13 and 17, which actually kind of defeats the purpose of having every team play on Thursday night. But, I digress. So, gentlemen, Dallas, I'm going to start with you for a second. We got a few more things to do here. I know, Dallas, you got to go here in about 8 minutes, so I'll make sure I wrap everything up for you here. But do you like the fact that these networks can do this flexible schedule, or do you think they should just go with the schedule the NFL makes and be done?
Yeah, it can be frustrating from the fans' perspective, and I feel for the small market teams, especially the ones that are struggling. Even sometimes the small market teams are having great seasons. They don't seem to put them on prime time. I don't, for the most part, like I said earlier, I don't love prime time. I want to watch it out. I like the afternoon slot on Sunday is my favorite time to watch my team play when there's only a few other games going on. You get to watch the 12 o'clock or the 1 o'clock window and then watch your team play in the afternoon. That's my favorite time for the Cowboys to play. But I think, yeah, you got to flex those games, man. When teams are not playing well and it's you got freaking who have I not crapped on tonight? Let's try to think of a bad team here. When you got the Browns at the Giants on a Sunday night football game and they're both 2-9, I mean, come on, you got to flex that. We want to watch good games in the prime time because you don't want to miss them, right? That's the purpose of a prime time game. They're the only game going on, and everybody can watch, and everyone's talking about it because they all saw it. You got to throw those bad games in at when it's Sunday at 1 o'clock and you're just on red zone and you don't have to see it unless something crazy happens. That's what we want to see. So I feel bad for the teams that don't get to play in prime time, but unfortunately, it is what it is. You're probably going to yell, think I'm an idiot because like a Dallas Cowboys fan telling me about prime time. They're always on prime time. I hate it. So I wish they were never on prime time. But yeah, you got to flex some of those games. You got to make them interesting.
Yeah, we got some real good comedians up here. In fact, Ricky Logan's one of our better comedians, asking if we can get a game in Antarctica and then saying dome optional. So, yeah, just wanted to throw that
Okay,
out
well,
there.
we send them to Buffalo in January. It's the same thing.
It is pretty close. You're right about that. So we're creeping up on 100 people with us live right here on a Tuesday night. Myself, Mike Valentine. You can find me at the643 and out pod. Gabriel, where can they find you at before you give your comments here, and then we'll make sure that Dallas can plug his stuff before he goes as well.
At Sports Pulse 100, you can find our good friend JC Ramos 6898 poking fun at me.
All right, sounds good. Dallas, before we let Gabriel talk about the flexible schedule, tell us about your podcast and where we can get some other stuff from you or your dad, Cowboy Reggie.
Yeah, my dad's the Cowboy Reg on X. You can find him; he's always on there. I run the at Sons of Star pod. account, so I'm a little active on X there, and that's when we'll have our live shows. We try to do them. I believe last year we did them on Tuesday nights as well, but we're kind of we're in the off season right now, so we're still looking at the best time to do it. But yeah, that's where you can find us at Sons of Star Pod, and we
All
do
right.
live
So,
shows on X whenever we feel like it, I guess.
all right, sounds good. But Tuesday nights are taken, man. Tuesday nights are taken.
I know,
this
I know.
morning
That's
night,
why we got to
actually.
move it. We got to move it around. So
Gabriel, what do you think about the flexible schedule and how Thursday, Sunday, and Monday night games can be moved around?
Wait, so you're telling me, Michael, that they can switch it if they feel like it'll help their ratings?
mm,
Hmm.
Interesting.
Hmm.
So yeah, the whole purpose of this, I thought, in theory at least, I thought the whole purpose of this was to give everyone right that same equal window, that same equal shot. But you're telling me that no, that's not the case at all. Tickle me shocked. Listen, I've already said I'll tune in. I don't care. We can have the winless Browns versus the at the time winless Lions. I'll tune in for that game. Um, I think at times, the NFL might outthink itself a little bit, but then again, the proof's in the pudding. We just know that there are certain teams, there are certain matchups that will get better ratings. But I don't mind if some of the smaller teams have that Thursday night slot. But I will say, I forget which one it was exactly. There was one flex that happened last year where we all collectively went, "Oh, thank goodness!" so
yeah,
it does have
it'll
its
happen every year.
purpose.
All
But you
right.
gotta,
All right.
yeah, I think you make a great point, Gabriel. Like you gotta think about the fans too, and it's not just for the fans that you gotta think about the fans that go to the games, right? When your team's always playing on a Sunday night or a Monday night, like it's a pain. You got work on Monday, you gotta rush over to the stadium, you try to take your kids to the game, you gotta get them out of school, whatever that may be. So prime time's great, but at the same time, it's just I love NFL Sundays. I love watching it at 1 o'clock. I love watching the afternoon slate, and then once it makes it to the Sunday night game, it gets late. You got to focus on work the next day, and you're not all the way focused. So, and then sometimes you just got to go to bed.
Hmm.
Like the Cowboys played the Steelers last year on a Sunday night. They had a 2-hour lightning delay. The game didn't end till like 1:30 in the morning. Should have gone
Yes.
to bed.
Yeah, I agree with all of that.
So
Let me give you some of these games that have already been announced, and then we're gonna wrap up here with one more thing on this, and then we'll more than likely bid Dallas adieu here for a second. But first of all, so they've already announced the opening week. We said that Cowboys at Eagles, and they also announced the Sunday night game for that, which was Bengals at Buffalo. They've announced Black Friday game. That's in week 13. It'll be Bears at Eagles. So they've announced that one. Week 16, Fox has a doubleheader. This was the one that Fox got to announce. They are going to be Eagles at Commanders and then Packers at Bears. That'll be a Saturday doubleheader, and it'll be going up against college football playoffs, by the way. So the NFL is trying to smash college football. We'll see how that works out for him. And then Christmas week,
hate
you will
that.
have Broncos at Chiefs. I mean, I don't know. I wish the NFL would lay off a little bit and let college football have their Saturdays. They've got Sunday, Monday, and Thursday, for God's sake. You need Saturday too. But then here's the last couple things. So the holiday games. There's always 3 on Thanksgiving, 1 in Detroit, 1 in Dallas, and then this year they're not saying where the third one is until tomorrow. Christmas Day, there'll be 2 games on Netflix on Christmas Day. And then all of these Thursday night games are, of course, on Amazon Prime. And I bring it up because of this. And I want to know if you guys are ready to spend $1,515.40. That's what it will take this year for you to watch all of the 272 games on all of these different networks that the NFL is going to be on. So NFL fans will have to spend that to watch them all. The Sunday ticket costs you roughly $522 unless they increase it between now and then. This is off all the numbers that are being done right now. YouTube TV is going to be $563.88 for that time frame. Peacock's only $13.99. Netflix will be $22.99 because you only need it for the 1 week. Amazon Prime, you need every Thursday night for that, $89.94. ESPN Plus will have some games on this year, so you'll have to buy the Plus, not just the ESPN. So ESPN Plus, you'll have to spend $104.94. And then there's taxes on all that because, Uncle Sam's got to get his. So that will be $197.66. Dallas, are you willing to spend that much money to watch football this year?
Yeah, you want a check, you want my credit card, debit card. What do you take, Adele? Unfortunately, I'm going to complain about it every time, but I'll end up spending it. It sucks. I don't know. I'm going to wait. I can't say this now because as soon as it comes around, I'm going to be like, Sunday ticket, let's buy it. I think Sunday ticket is honestly the one I will forego because I like watching Red Zone but as soon as I can't watch a Cowboys game though, I'm gonna spend the money to try and watch it. So it's hard, but yeah, it's a pain. Luckily, a lot of those apps you usually already have for other reasons. Now they have football. ESPN Plus. Yeah, I have ESPN Plus. I don't even know what I watch on it, but I just have it. But hopefully it doesn't expand. Like they keep throwing any more. Peacock I already own because I'm a Notre Dame football fan too. So they always have a game on Peacock every year. So unfortunately, I already own a lot of these things. But Sunday Ticket will be the one where I'll think about maybe not getting.
Okay, Gabriel, how about you? You ready to spend that kind of money on football this year, bud?
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. Here's the thing that I detest the most is remember back in the day we had to all get NBC. All right, fine, we all got NBC. And now there's the offshoot of okay, we have to get Peacock. And so I bring that up to say you can get everything that you need for this year. And then next year, there's going to be another ancillary product, another attachment that you then still have to get anyway. It's enough.
Whoa.
It's enough.
Don't use such big words, sir. Ancillary is more than 3 syllables. It's not allowed on this show. But
Oh
please
my
continue.
goodness. Oh my goodness.
Hilarious. Yeah, that's fair.
There are other things that you have to buy then.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification. Dallas, you get me for one more thing here. I want to ask you about your Cubs real quick, and then I'll let you go. Is that all right?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, this sounds
so-
great. Yeah.
All right.
All good.
So Bob Nightingale said earlier this week that the Dodgers are actually going to be all in on Kyle Tucker if he hits free agency, the newest Cub, right? So this is the final year of his contract. So I've got 2 questions for you on this, buddy. What difference do you think Kyle has actually made for the Cubs?
Yeah, I think he's made a huge difference in that lineup. I think, you add that superstar in the middle of your lineup, and he can really carry some of the other guys around him when they're in slumps. And that's what I think superstars do. They're able to, even his lows are not that low. His highs are incredible. He started the year so hot. It just, and you see the difference in their offense. They've struggled on offense last year, and they've had one of the best offenses in the entire MLB so far this year. It's early on; you got a lot of games left in the season, but I think he's made a tremendous difference in the lineup. And yeah, I mean, the guy they have to get whatever needs to be done to re-sign him. They have to do it. They don't have an option at this point, unless he really starts a slump and falls apart. But I don't think that's going to happen.
All right. So then, Gabriel, just hang tight for me a second because I know Dallas has to go, but I want to get these 2 Cubs questions in for him real quick. So then, if you know this, right? If you know the Dodgers are lurking, tell me what a reasonable contract is for Kyle Tucker, and should the Chicago Cubs give him that contract that you're going to come up with here?
I've heard a few different things. I've heard like 10 for 400, and that's going to be too low. I'm hearing 10 for 450, maybe 500. Yeah, I think it's going to have to be somewhere around that range. I think he's going to make 50 million a year. I mean, that's maybe what the Dodgers are going to be after. It's ridiculous. They got to do this not only for the Cubs in Chicago, but they need to do this for MLB. Like you can't send another guy like this to the Dodgers. It's just going to be unwatchable.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think whatever you got to do to get it done, you get it done. And look, I mean, every year the same thing's happening with leagues throughout the throughout the sports world. Is every year someone's going to set a record. I don't know if he's going to do that in passing Juan Soto or anything, but I think the guy's probably worth at this point his market values at 45, 50 a year. And I think the Ricketts needs to get out and spend that money. And I think if they don't, I do think that they're going to suffer for that. I think that the fan base is going to be fed up, and you won't see the sellouts in April when it's 29 degrees outside. You're not going to have that anymore, because if you can't spend the money like the big teams, and you're going to charge so much for the product, you go to a Cubs game, I mean, it's insane. The ticket prices are expensive. You're paying $25 for an old style, a can of piss. It's awful, but you spend it. You can't just charge those prices and not spend money on the back end for that talent. When you got a guy like this playing at that level and carrying the team through their struggles offensively, you got to spend the money. You don't have an option. So if the ownership decides that they're not going to do that, I think the fans are going to be fed up and they're going to suffer for it.
All right, buddy. Hey,
Because
I'm
they've
right
already
there with
spent the money on the manager. Sorry to interrupt you, but like, you're going to
No,
spend
no.
that money on Craig Counsell, one of the I think he's the highest paid managers in the MLB, isn't he? I don't know that for sure, but I'm pretty sure he is. Yeah. How are you going to spend the most money on a manager and not give him the players to win a World Series? I mean, that doesn't make any sense. So if you're willing to spend that much for Craig Counsell, you better be able to spend that much money on Kyle Tucker.
Right. And hey, buddy, I tell you what, I appreciate you live streaming this as well. I saw that you're doing it on your app, so thank you very much. Appreciate that. Give us one more time, buddy. Where can we find you at, and when you going to start back up again, Dallas?
Yeah, check us out at Sons of Star Pod. Yeah, we took a little break. We were devastated. We did a live show after the draft. We're gonna do one here again within these next couple weeks, going over the schedule. But yeah, we just took a little let's call it a mental health break from the Dallas Cowboys. We just needed a little space after last year's debacle. And to be honest with you, I didn't want to get on and talk about Schottenheimer. I mean, there's nothing to talk about there, right? But no, so on a serious note, we'll be on a more regular schedule here coming soon. We just have, we've had a lot of personal things and nothing crazy, but just been busy. But we'll be back on for sure. So thank you guys so much for having me. I'd love to come back anytime. You'll have me, and maybe we'll have you guys on Sons of Stars sometime. Talk about some Cowboys. You got to talk good about the Cowboys, though.
Well,
No
if I
slander.
have to, I don't know if I want you to put those handcuffs on me. I mean, I work in the prison. I don't like
No,
cuffs.
I'm kidding. That's good stuff. Hey, well, thank you so much for having me. It's really a pleasure, and enjoy the rest of your week. And yeah, we'll talk again soon.
All right, buddy.
Dallas,
Sounds good. I appreciate you, Dallas. Thank you very much, bud.
Dallas, you have
All right,
good
tons of fun, guys. We'll see you soon.
Okay. Thanks, bud.
Except for the curtains. Shell some money out. Start an NIL fund for the curtains.
We will.
Jerry's going to start
We'll
taxing the
fund.
drinks a few more extra. All right, see you guys.
All right, sounds good, man. Thank you very much. All right, so that was Dallas. He is on, once again, Sons of Star podcast. We are about to move in to our National 513 talk here. We're going to do two different things from the area code 513. That is, of course, Cincinnati. We got 100 people with us live right now, and I'm sure that number is going to go up when we pull up these two guys, because they are both from Cincinnati. Let's give them some music first. How about that? All right, so the first one we're going to bring on here with me, this is the guy who writes sports. He writes Cincinnati Red stuff on www.welikesport.bc.com. I can see him bobbing his head to the music off screen. But now we're going to, there goes the finger snapping. Look out in his bright orange cap. Here we go. Here is Ricky Logan. How you doing, Ricky?
How we doing, fellas?
I'm doing good,
Ricky.
good. Before you talk too much here, before this beautiful song fades away here, let's make sure we do that real fast. And then, he's got to have his own song. I mean, he's Sirhan, for God's sake. He got to have his own music, right? So I'll tell you what, let's give him something else. Oh, here he goes. Heath. Beautiful boxing. Well, I don't know about beautiful, but he's a really good boxing writer for us on www.welikespортspc.com. He also writes Cincinnati Bengals talk for us, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to talk a little Reds. We're going to talk a little Cincinnati Bengals, and we are going to make this screen look beautiful because here comes Sirhan. How you doing, buddy?
What's going on, everyone?
All right,
Hey,
look at
Sirhan.
that matching Cincy hat. I mean, Gabriel, we didn't get the memo. You got the Spurs hat on. I don't have one, and
It's
then all of a
513
sudden
day.
you got these Cincy hats at the bottom.
Hey, next time he's doing a Spurs podcast, I'll come on with a Spurs hat because I'm a Spurs guy myself.
Oh,
Yes.
look out.
Go back to the Admiral.
Yes.
Yeah, the Admiral, Timmy D.
Now, I tell you what, there. Just so you know, sucking up doesn't get you anywhere on this show, by the way. Just so you know. All right. You know, the old man can't figure out how to get back to the music. Hang on. All right, here we go. Now we can turn it off. All right. Excellent. I finally got back to it. All right. Here we go. We're going to have Spurs talk on the Cincinnati Bengals show. So that's what we're going to go with for the time being anyway. Our numbers have already jumped up exponentially since the two of you guys have come on, and we ain't even talked to you all yet. Ricky, tell us where we can find you at, buddy.
Yeah, you can find me on X at It's Ricky Logan. The Red Hot Reds pod on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, all that good stuff. We do the weekly Reds recap on Sundays, and we've had some pretty decent interviews on Wednesdays. We had Tom Berneman on. We've had Reds Daily 4. Greg Kuffner writes for Sports Illustrated for the Reds with James Rapine. Got some future guests coming in. We got Reed Mouse coming on Sunday. That'll be fun. And then, yeah, we're just glad to be hanging out with you guys.
All right, we're glad you're with us too, but there's a 3 name drop limit on this show, just so you know. All right, Sirhan, buddy, tell us where they can find you at. I know you do a podcast too, man. Tell us about that.
Well, it's an audio video podcast. You can find me on my Twitter, on my X handle, Sirhan on X, just the same name as my show over there. And the show not only is on the X platform, you can also catch me on Facebook, also on other streaming sites like YouTube and Rumble, and now taking the audio platforms to greater ventures like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and just recently acquired to the iHeartRadio app. So if you have the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, you can hear my shows on those platforms as well.
Wow, Sirhan's just
Nice.
all over the place out there.
Let's go.
Right?
Hey,
Let's go. I like
Yeah,
it.
one of the iHeartMedia apps is people run the iHeart is from Cincinnati. So for those of you guys listening locally, get ready because I'm gonna hit the airwaves here soon.
All right, sounds good, bud. All right, going to hit the airwaves soon. Smack him upside their head. That's what he's going to do. Now, now, while we're doing all of this, Gabriel, you may as well plug your stuff too. Go ahead, man.
Gabriel.
Thank you. At Sports Pulse 100, here we are. You can find myself interacting with next week's guest at JC Ramos 6898. And if you think that is not a treat, it may not be.
All right, yeah, as I already said, we had to kind of scramble for this one here. I was doing I thought it was like a scramble drill earlier, like a sports thing, but I want to thank Sirhan and Ricky both. Man, I think I gave Sirhan like a couple hours notice and said, "Can you do it?" And he goes, "Yeah, sure can." So fantastic. I appreciate him being on here. And Ricky has the same shirt he had on earlier, but took off the glasses and changed the hat. So
couple other podcasts today. No,
right? Yeah, he's been a busy guy today. So
I got that Pete
yeah.
Rose article out of the way today too. So that was a time crunch.
Have you put it up on the site yet, sir?
I did.
Oh, and what site would that be?
It is
See if you get it right. Here we go.
WeLikeSportsPC.com.
Oh, that's it. And of course, Ricky writes for us there, and Sirhan writes for us there. He does Bengals and he does great boxing stuff
Yeah,
for
I
us
love the
as
boxing
well.
stuff.
And coming at the end of the month, I'll be documenting the super fight of all Puerto Rico of New York City from '86 between Hector Camacho and Edwin Rosario. Why one punch changed both lives forever.
All right, I like that, buddy. Well, you are just, man, you're all over the place and you're setting yourself up. And and promoting yourself. And all right, that's about enough out of you over there in the corner. Okay,
Okay, I'm good. Nice.
gonna do the bob and weave thing before it's all said and done, right? That's it. All right. So we're going to talk about Trey Hendrickson first. We're going to do Trey Hendrickson, and then we're going to do Pete Rose. So, Sirhan, since you are the Bengals writer, I'll start you off and give us some stats on Trey Hendrickson so that we can kind of take those things and run with it. All right?
Well, I'm going to elaborate more on his 4 years here in Cincinnati because that's where he's made the most impact. I mean,
Okay.
talking about a guy who's had 220 combined tackles, 151 solo tackles, 71 tackles for loss. Talking about 62 sacks the last 2 years, 35 altogether. Talking about 11 forced fumbles. Basically, just an impact player on the defensive line, especially at the edge and the right side. His impact goes beyond the stats, especially when you talk about how not so great the entire Bengals defense has been, especially over the past 2 years. You talk about a guy who was a four-time All-Pro, made the first team AP All-Pro this season, and was second in the Defensive Player of the Year voting this year to Patrick Surtain of Denver. The impact is just undeniable. I can't describe it with the stats, but basically his 4 years here in Cincinnati, he just made an insurmountable impact on a defensive side that over the last few years has been absolutely subpar the rest of the way.
All right, buddy. Now, before we get into this too deep, I want to thank our fans and I want to thank the four of you guys right now up front. Here we go. We are well up over 100 people with us live right now. And we follow, let's see, let me get the exact number here. We follow, click this button over here, 6,490 people right now. And we are the top podcast out of everyone that is on X right now doing their podcast. So we appreciate being number one. That's a really good feeling being on top. So, Gabriel, here's the first question. I'll go Gabriel, Ricky, and then I'll come back down to Sirhan at the end here. Here's the first question about Trey Hendrickson. What kind of contract does Trey Hendrickson deserve?
I mean, he's a guy who was the one shining force on that Bengals defense, and this is coming from me because we have a former Husker on that Bengals defense in the secondary. Not a great year, for him, but he was a guy. Trey Hendrickson was, who, you know, Sirhan just brought up second MVP voting. Some people thought because of the position, because of how good he was individually, that he deserved to win it. And so when you have someone like that, and my stance is right quarterback's the most important position, so not too far off should be the line play. You know, if you're the team with the quarterback, you want to protect the guy. If you're the other team, you want the guy that can get at the other team's quarterback. So
right.
He deserves a top contract. Is it going to be one of those where he's now the new record holder because every 6 months we have a new record holder at each position? It seems like maybe, but if not, certainly I view he could be up there. Certainly his play would deserve that.
All right, so this is the first of 5 questions. Ricky, I'll pose the same question to you. What kind of contract does Trey deserve?
It's difficult just based off his age and his style of play, but he deserves everything. He's the heart and soul of that defense. Myles Garrett got extended just recently in the offseason for an average annual value of $40 million a year, and Max Crosby just got his deal. No, is Hendrickson those guys? No, but is he better than Josh Hines or Brian Burns or Montez Sweat or Rashawn Gary or Andrew Van Ginkel? It's like, yeah, he is. He deserves to be paid more than them guys. I would say for a team that doesn't spend a whole lot of money on the defensive side, like if give him $30 million, like 30 million annual over 2-3 years, he deserves that.
All right. So you're saying he deserves Myles Garrett type money, yes?
No, 10 million less. Just Garrett's on a whole nother planet, but him and Crosby both. But to give Hendrickson 30 million a year, just that seems about right.
All right. Sirhan, 30 million a year, higher or lower, buddy? What do you think?
Maybe a pinch higher, but probably not more than that. 2 to 3 years, I think, is logical. You know, remember, the guy's going to be 32 coming up, and if you give him a couple more years, he's going to be 34, 35. You have to consider the age as a part of it. Now, whether he can produce at that level remains to be seen, but no one has come off the 2 years he had, the last 2 years where he had 35 sacks, basically 17 and a half both years, and to sustain that level throughout. So it's basically a case of where I think 2 to 3 years, I think, would be the right way to go. Maybe 2 years, some kind of an option for a third. Around the 30 to 32 million mark, probably no higher than that. Anything higher than that's probably overpaying. But it's basically, as Ricky pointed out, with some of the guys that were paid, like a Max Crosby and a Myles Garrett, has complicated the market to where we're having this discussion. This is something I thought they should have had about a year or two before this to prevent themselves to get in the situation in hand. But here we are. But probably a 2 year deal, about 30 to 32 million per, will probably be about as far as I go. And after that 2 years, you can just let him walk, because he'll be 34, and it'll be hard to see if he can produce at that high level at that age, especially at that defensive edge position where the body can be taxing at that age.
All right, I'm fine with that. I really am. This one's a little hard for me. Both these subjects are going to be a little hard for me, to be honest with you, because I agree with what both of you are saying as far as, he deserves the money, but at the same point, he's older. I also understand that it's the business. I don't know if he didn't have a good season and they wanted to lowball him right now. Would he take that? Great. I am really excited that he had a great season. And I'll be very honest with you. I thought about buying his jersey, and I said, no, let's pump the brakes on this until we see what kind of contract he gets. Because I'm not spending $100 on a jersey or $120 on a jersey, and I'm only going to wear it for a year. So I understand that it's a business as well, but I do think that he has played well and deserves some of this money. So, second question, and Sirhan, I'm going to drop it right back down to you. We're going to go in reverse order here than we did the last time with you, Ricky, and then Gabriel. So these negotiations are a business, and each side are looking out for themselves. Is that something that you would agree with or disagree with? That each side is looking out for themselves in these negotiations.
Well, I agree with it. I mean, Trey Hendrickson wants to be paid what he's worth. He thinks his value is more than what the Bengals is, paying him. But also, let's remind people, the Bengals also probably looking out for themselves, knowing Trey Hendrickson's in the final year of his guaranteed contract, and given the fact they just shelled out tons of millions to both Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, and not to mention going to the 2025 season, Joe Burrow's extension kicks in, which is going to be roughly $50 million a year. Yeah. So on their side, they are looking for themselves, but also Trey Hendrickson is looking out for himself in the terms of value, knowing what his value is and seeing what the market is. He thinks he's worth the dollar figures that some of these other guys are getting, and he wants to be within that particular framework in terms of the value of what they're paid. He thinks his play has warranted it, but also I understand the Bengals side of it, realizing that, because they shut out so much money to their top three guys, that is going to be a little bit on the tough side with their hands tied. And basically they don't have a guy that's supposedly a quote salad cap guru, end quote. But both sides are looking for each other. I think so. It's a case of we'll give you what we want from the Bengals side, but Trey Hendrickson's side is more of like, look at all these guys getting their contracts. I think I'm worth as much as those guys. I think I deserve more than what was given. So yes, I agree. Both sides are looking out for each other.
All right. So Ricky, what do you think is more important to him? I'm going to rephrase the question a little bit just to get a little different answers from everybody here. Do you think the years are more important to Trey, or do you think the overall money is more important to Trey?
I think it's years. He stated publicly that he wants to go and tell his wife, hey, this is where we're staying for the next X amount of years. And I think obviously he wants to get paid, but when you add more years to it, you can spread that out. And with, like you said, the Bengals don't have that salary cap guru, or they don't really they don't mess with the cap. Like the extension they did with Chase and Higgins, like that was a prime example of them not using the cap to the fullest potential.
Right.
So I look at it as when he signed his extension in 2023, it was a 1-year deal, and it gave him an $8 million guaranteed base salary. And then for 2025, it's 15.8, I think, this year. Plus, I think there's like incentives, puts it up to 21. It's almost like they rushed that extension, and I don't think, like, I had seen takes that, you know, it's a business when the franchise wants to make a move, but when a player wants to make a business decision, it's looked at differently. And I agree with that take, just because when a player makes a decision, it's like, oh, why would he do that? Or why would he do this? But when a team does it, it's like, well, they got to make financial decisions. But I guess kind of getting back on topic, like, yeah, I think years is most important to Trey, just because I think he loves the city of Cincinnati, and his family loves the city of Cincinnati, and I just think that's where he wants to finish his career.
Okay. Gabriel, I'm going to stick with the money and all this kind of stuff. Wow. I was typing some stuff here in the background, and I look up, and the number of viewers we got all of a sudden, we're starting to get up toward 200 right at the moment. So we are flying up there, and we appreciate each and every one of you that are with us right now. So Gabriel, as we're talking about Trey Hendrickson and the money and the years and all that kind of stuff, what if the Bengals come to Trey Hendrickson because of his age and because of the position that he plays, and they give him an incentive-laden contract? Do you think that's something that he would go for, or do you think he wants to be guaranteed X amount of dollars?
In the words of the great Hall & Oates, Michael, I just can't go for that. Listen, he's a player who feels he's earned a certain amount of respect, and that respect ultimately has to then translate into dollars, and he's going to want the whole enchilada. Gosh, that sounds so good right now. But in terms of that, I like what Ricky's saying in terms of he wants to be a Bengal for life. I'm sure he does. At the same time, if the Bengals lowball him, I think he'll very quickly find a new affinity for a different city. That's just how I view it.
Okay. I can certainly see that. I get the fact that, because I have a family. I mean, my daughter's grown out of the house and stuff like that at this point because I'm an old fart. But, I do understand that you want to be able to plant plant somewhere, right? To be able to be in that house, to be able to, to furnish it, to make it your own, to plant the flowers in the front yard and all that kind of stuff, right? And you don't want to have to worry about, am I only going to be here for just a little bit of time and then I'm moving on somewhere else? So I do understand the years behind it. Ricky, I'm going to start with you. Then we're going to go to Sirhan this time and then up to Gabriel. So we'll go Ricky, Sirhan, Gabriel, so that you guys all know exactly what we're doing here. Here's the third of 5 questions here. And I think this might be the pivotal one as we kind of go through this. Today, Trey Hendrickson said it's personal. Why all of a sudden, Ricky, do you think that Trey Hendrickson feels that these negotiations have suddenly gotten personal?
I think part of it is there hasn't really been communication, for one, and he found out stuff through text messages, through Twitter posts, through the Pat McAfee show. Like he's not. It feels like he's not getting any communication from the front office, and he's finding out stuff secondhand, for one, and two, it doesn't really feel like they're making him a serious offer like the way they did with Higgins and Chase. Like with Higgins and Chase, it was like, hey, we've got to get these guys. These guys have to be a part of the future. And with Hendrickson, they're like, well, we just drafted Shamar Stewart. Let's see where that goes. And then maybe we'll work out a deal with Trey.
Okay, so you're thinking he's getting some things secondhand. Sirhan, let's go with that for a second. If that's the case, and he's getting these things secondhand, and he's getting these things from different shows and from Twitter and, well, X or whatever they call it, Twix now, I don't know, whatever it's called. So is that Trey's fault? Is that the Bengals organization's fault? Or is that his agent's fault for not relaying stuff to him that maybe the Bengals are telling him?
think it's two ways between his agent and the team. There should be been a form of communication both ways this whole time, from when all this began to now. The fact that they've been actually rumored, this is about a couple months back, I'm going to trace back, they supposedly had meetings about this, and basically, I guess it didn't turn out the way Harold Lewis, Trey Hendrickson's agent, wanted it. Basically, I think it's a case of both the agent and the team not communicating the way they should, and because of that communication, we had what Trey Hendrickson has been saying, not just yesterday when he came out on ESPN, but also today when he was at the Bengals mandatory minicamp when he was interviewed. So as far as it being personal, I think he wanted it to be done the right way, and he wanted feedback and honesty as of what the Bengals wanted to do. Problem is, because of the lack of communication, there's all kinds of conclusions that's being drawn, and it doesn't help the fact that not just the team, but also his agent, Harold Lewis, who's his representative, he should be the one telling Trey Hendrickson exactly what's going on. And because Trey Hendrickson isn't finding out, that's why we're in the situation we're in. That's why it's personal to him, because he said a couple times throughout this process, the communication is key, and there's been little to none of it, and that's where the personal stuff, I think, is where it's coming from.
All right. So, Gabriel, we've talked, both Ricky and Sirhan have given us really good insights on Trey. And they've got mandatory mini camps going on right at the moment and everything else. We'll talk about that here in just a moment. But he's talking about it being personal and the fact that there's no communication. So if the Bengals aren't talking, should Trey Hendrickson be talking? Or is that what has made this so personal?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that'd be a great solution.
Great
to all
question.
this.
Great question.
Great question.
Yeah, that'd be a great solution to all of this. The lack of communication. Let's just double down on that. But it's fair if that's the route that he elected to go down. I wouldn't necessarily blame him at all. Listen, it depends in these kind of situations who has the leverage. And obviously both parties feel like they have a strong hand, and they're right now playing it as best as they can, I guess. So who wins? No one. We do, because we get to talk about it. I guess we're the winners.
Right.
In terms of, I like how Sirhan, what you just said in terms of, right, his big priority was communication, being forthright. Right now, I think in terms of the whole process, in terms of how both sides are communicating with each other, right now I'd say we'd probably grade that around an F. And so that's not a good grade for something that is the most important factor to the player.
That's correct. So let me give you a few things here. My name is Mike Valentine. I am the nickname Cleat Geek here. You can find me on X at the 643 and Out Pod, which is the name of this organization here with myself and Gabriel. This is the Sportz Truth that you are listening to. Ricky, tell us where they can find you at again, sir, and we'll start the next question with yourself, sir.
Yeah, at It's Ricky Logan, the Red Hot Reds pod on X, also at WeLikeSportsPC.com. You can find me there. My articles I write about the Reds. Yeah, just all the social medias as my name or Red Hot Reds pod.
All right, sounds fantastic. We are one person away. We're one. I'll say it one more time, because we're one person away. We're one person away from 200, gentlemen. So yeah, we are cranking right along with this. We appreciate everybody that's with us. You can add your comments as well. Just click on the comment section, and I see a couple of them that I've got to get to here, and I will, as soon as I ask Ricky this question, it'll be Ricky, Gabriel, and then Sirhan at the end. He seemed mad today, did Trey Hendrickson, when he learned that Coach Zach Taylor texted him saying he'd be fined if he didn't show up for mandatory minicamp. But my question is, should he be angry? I mean, aren't all players fine? Why? Does Hendrickson all of a sudden think he is like above everybody else? Talk to me about this a little bit, Ricky.
Yeah, I don't understand that part. I guess he's just angry about the whole situation, I guess. But, I mean, every player gets fined no matter what happens. But like he's saying in the chat, the Bengals will triple down on it. Yeah, I mean, they're going to find a way to mess this up. Like, they have the one player on defense who is doing, holding his weight. And, they're going to mess it up. But, yeah, I mean, I guess being like, should he be mad? I mean, I guess so, but it's just, that's just the way the rules are.
Right. So Gabriel really. Oh, wait. Hang on just a second. I got to. We got the two. Oh, we're at 201. 201. All right, Gabriel. So should he be mad? I mean, it gave me the impression, and maybe it didn't you, but it gave me the impression today that Hendrickson thinks he's the best thing on this team. That Hendrickson thinks, he's got one more year to play out, right? Whatever happened to sign your 4-year contract and shut your mouth until the offseason of that 4-year contract's done? So talk to me a little bit here and tell me what you think about how this is going. And does Trey Hendrickson really have a beef here? Because he was going to get fined if he didn't show up to mandatory minicamp.
Yeah, I mean, it's a mess and a half. And anymore, though, in terms of a player signing, say, a 5-year deal, anymore, you're almost shocked when there isn't some form of negotiation after year 2, year 3, or at least the talks of a negotiation. So that might be of a past era nowadays, which just, again, great for us. Why? Because we get to talk about it, and that's what matters at the end of the day, content. But in terms of this specifically, right? Did you just say it mandatory? So why are we having this discussion? Oh wait, because it's not actually mandatory. It's a complete misnomer. So I don't know. In terms of Hendrickson specifically, I think it's fine if he misses this part of the season. I understand it's
Gabriel.
What?
You used a big word again. You did this in the last segment. We told you no big words on the 3 syllables. 3.
Wait,
That's it.
Wait, which big word did I say?
I don't know. It was so big, I forgot it all.
Stop. No. Mandatory? Mandatory.
No, mandatory. I got that one.
NFL? Was that the big one?
Nomenclature or something? What was it? It was a...
misnomer.
Really,
yeah,
that one. I'm Googling that right now, for God's sake, as we're talking.
Listen, sometimes the East Coast sneaks out every now and then. Just elitism over here. It's fine.
Right?
But yeah, how do I end up falling on this? I put more of the onus on the Bengals for having it get to this point. Now, does his agent, does Trey Hendrickson, do they play a role also maybe in not drawing a harder line in this now becoming even worse? Sure, they deserve a part of the blame pie, but if it's a blame pie, I would give well over 3/4 of that said pie to the Bengals.
Okay. Sirhan, what do you think about all this, man? We've talked and we've looked at some different angles, but today Trey Hendrickson used the word personal, like they're like attacking him. What do you think about that, and why has it all of a sudden become personal for Trey Hendrickson?
Probably because a lot of the stuff is out there that he is not aware of. It goes back to what we all just talked about, just the inability to accurately relay the information back and forth. You would think with how everything is today, it'd be more open to where the communication flow will be easier. But as Gabriel said, it was talked about throughout the offseason. There were opportunities to discuss this both ways, especially with the Bengals front office. Nobody wanted to do it, or they basically did it at their value. The Bengals had a value. Trey Hendrickson had a value. They couldn't match. Of course, there was the so-called trade rumors, and that the Hendrickson's agent, Harold Lewis, said they could have netted a first-round pick, which was a stretch. That never transpired. Then basically, once again, to where we had what we had over the past few days, where basically Trey Hendrickson saying there's no communication, and as you said, it was personal. Now, because everything has happened so erratically and so inconsistently, that is why everything is happening the way it is. And to say it was only 3/4 of the pie, I think 3/4 of the pie is being too soft. It's more like 95% of the pie, because they want the whole chunk of it, and Trey Hendrickson's getting the equivalent of the pie crumbs afterwards, because that's how bad this whole thing has been badly botched. It's been a synopsis of the entire Bengals off season, because a lot of things were botched. This is basically the tip of the iceberg.
It's almost a synopsis of the Bengals as a whole, just throughout their entire history.
Understatement.
That's true. Now, but Sirhan, I have to come back to a point that you make, and I'm just going to ask you because of our sake of time here for a second, because you brought it up. You said that this agent said, "Hey, I can get a first-round pick if they try to trade us," right? And then that never happened. Do you think maybe that they overplayed their hand there, and now this is, now the Bengals are like, "Oh, well, he thinks they're going to get this, and they can't even get that," and so now that it inadvertently, I know a big word, Gabriel, I know they inadvertently
Oh my
shot
goodness.
themselves in the foot instead of actually helping themselves when they do bluffs like that, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, basically, I'm going to trace back to several years back when the whole Carson Palmer fiasco. If anybody in Cincinnati remembers how that was, where basically the Bengals said we weren't trading Carson Palmer. They weren't trading Carson Palmer unless they got what they wanted. So that's what happened with this. My guess is they probably wanted to trade. If they were going to trade Trey Hendrickson, that was fine. But they were just going to trade Hendrickson for nothing. They were going to get trade him for something they wanted. And the agent, Harold Lewis, basically told the Bengals front office, if you put him out there, you can get a first-round draft pick out of it. We can negotiate. Problem was, they thought the first-round pick was the equivalent of overvaluing. And because of it, that's why it didn't happen. And the offers that the Bengals more than likely got, if they put him out there, were basically not what the Bengals wanted. And that's why the situation wound up being what it is. They basically, as you said, Michael, they overplayed their hand and they did it publicly. Once that happens, that's why the results wind up the way they do.
All right, so you'll see me looking over to the side, and it's not I'm not paying attention to any of you. I've got a computer over here and one phone there, a computer up here in front of me, the camera over here that I'm surprised I haven't broken yet. I got a soundboard over here with all these cute little, all kinds of stuff going on over here, right? All right, slide over there. So I've got a bunch of different things going on here, and I'm trying to keep up with everything. We're at 2:15, man. Let's at least try to get 10 more and go to 2.25 before we're out of here today. But we still got Pete Rose to go yet. Here's the last thing on Trey Hendrickson. And Sirhan, just because I like to hear your voice, I'm going to start with you so we can have almost 10 minutes straight of Sirhan here right at the moment. So
Nice.
I'm going to put this up on our Twitter as well. That's what I was typing here. It's what I'll finish doing it while you guys give me the explanation. So Sirhan, Ricky, and Gabriel, that'll be the order that we go in with this. And here's the final question on our Trey Hendrickson topic before we get to Pete Rose, and that is this. What do you think the ultimate outcome in this Cincinnati Bengal Trey Hendrickson debate here will be? And here are your 4 choices that you will have up on our Twitter at the 643 and Out Pod. We'll make it live and we'll put it up here right now. Here we go. So what do you think? Will he be traded before the season? Will he sign a long-term deal? He plays out the final year of his contract? Or he sits out and doesn't play at all? Which one of those 4? So let me give them to you again. Traded before the end of the season, or traded before the beginning of the season, I'm sorry. Signs a long-term contract, plays out the final year, or sits out and doesn't play at all. Which one you thinking, Sirhan? And then it'll be Sirhan, Ricky, and Gabriel. I'm going to type over here on the side.
He's going to play the year. I can't see him sitting out the year. I mean, if you want to know what happens when you sit out the year, go back to what happened with Le'Veon Bell, the Pittsburgh Steelers, and how that backfired. No way I can see him doing that. Trade is possible, but it, again, depends on what the value is in return, because everything's now out the open. That value is probably diminished. Long-term deal, I'd probably say is more like 70-30, with the 70 being unlikely. So I would probably say he more likely is going to get involved a little with all the training camps that's going on. But when the season kicks off, he will be playing for the Cincinnati Bengals. It will likely be the final year of his deal, and more likely the final year of him being in a Cincinnati Bengal uniform.
All right, Ricky, we're going to jump to you. Same thing. What do you think the ultimate outcome will be in the Cincinnati Bengal Trey Hendrickson saga?
I have a cop-out answer. I think it's going to be a combination of sitting out and playing. I think he's going to do a Chris Jones situation where he sat out week 1, probably gets extended, and he's going to play. I don't think it's going to be the extension that he wants, but I think he's going to get something, and I think he's going to play.
All right, so he's going to put his foot down, and eventually get what he wants, but he's going to have to put his foot down first.
It's going to take him missing a game, the team realizing how important he is to the team, and then him getting something.
All right. Gabriel, what do you think, buddy? You know the choices. I know we've got some comments up here that I've got to get to, and I'll do that here in just a second when Gabriel gives us his answer. Go ahead, buddy.
Particularly because of the Trey Hendrickson camp and the fiasco that we saw with the now diluted trade value that the Bengals would receive, there's no way you can trade him. That just can't happen. So, and I don't think the Bengals are going to give him top dollar. So he's going to walk, and that'll be the end of that. Maybe the Rams will be in the market by then for Trey Hendrickson. Hey, Trey, I heard Los Angeles is beautiful around this time of year.
Played in the Super Bowl there and lost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. So, hang on just a second. What do you think? All right. So it's up on our site right now. I click the post button. It is up there. Let me go over here. I got all these buttons to do. Man, I need it. It's like I need oh, now I see what. None of the rest of you can see the comments, right? Only this sexy guy over here in the corner. So there we go. You ready for all these? Yeah. See, now I know what's going on here. I was like, wow, we got 6 comments all of a sudden. What's going on? It's like he's a 4-year-old. He just replaces the last part of the sentence.
Hi, Roger.
What's up, Roger?
Oh man.
Oh,
what is the score right now? Hang on, I'll tell you.
1-0.
It's 1-0 still. The Chicago and Cincinnati Reds score. It is top of the 9th. And it's 1-0.
Yeah, and they scored as many runs last night because they didn't play last night.
Yeah, I get it.
And they didn't score any runs on Sunday either. So let's leave it at that.
Right. Okay. So we've already got people voting on our Twitter poll question that's up right now. What do you think the final outcome of the Bengals and Trey Hendrickson saga? What do you think the final outcome will be? I need to edit that here in a second. I'll do it in a moment. So we're going to move on to the Pete Rose stuff, okay? And then we're also going to talk about Shoeless Joe Jackson because Ricky wants to and he runs the show. So Ricky,
Thanks,
tell
Ricky.
us about Shoeless Joe Jackson first. And then we'll jump into Pete Rose there because I got some interesting questions that I think we need to answer about this whole thing that happened today with Pete.
Yeah, a brief synopsis. Shoeless Joe Jackson was a part of the Black Sox scandal in 1919. They were bribed $5,000 to throw the series against the Cincinnati Reds in 1919. $5,000 in 1919 would be $92,000 today. So each player would have made $92,000 to throw the series. It's speculated that Shoeless Joe wasn't participating, even though he admitted that he did, which is odd because he had 12 hits in the World Series, and that was a record that stood until 1964. So that's kind of odd. But he hit 375 in the World Series. They did a jury did a trial of all 8 players involved, and they were acquitted. But new commissioner Kennesaw Mountain Landis had just been appointed in 1920, made a self-imposed.
Who was the commissioner?
Kennesaw Mountain Landis.
Kennesaw Mountain Landis. I mean, you got to say it like that. You just can't
Kennesaw
say
Come on,
Mountain
Ricky.
Landis.
Kennesaw Mountain Landis. Okay, there we go.
No half
Continue,
efforts here.
please, sir.
1920 was his first year. So his first year as commissioner was the year after the White Sox scandal. He did a self-imposed lifetime ban of all 8 players that were including Shoeless Joe. And I just think it's crazy. You look at Shoeless Joe's stats. He hit, let me find it here. It was like 350. Here it is. He had 1,772 hits, 54 home runs, 307 doubles, 202 stolen bases. And this was in the dead ball era. So just to keep in mind, like, guys weren't hitting back then. It was almost impossible to hit. He would be the Pete Rose of that era, just how well he was hitting. And he was banned at the age of 32. So his career was, funny enough, 32 years old when he was banned was the year 1920 was when the dead ball era ended. So he would have got probably more increased stats at the time too.
So just so you know, Ricky, the poll question's been up for about 4 minutes now, and we've got more votes on the poll question than the Reds have scored in 2 days. Just so you know.
Oh, damn.
Not good.
Oh, no.
So that's a
no.
good thing. That means you guys are rocking and rolling over there.
Well, it's not hard to rock and roll one. So
Oh man, it's brutal.
it is pretty brutal right at the moment. They just can't seem to score. So it's pretty hard to win a game when you can't score. All right. So now you've given us the shoeless Joe Jackson thing. I'm just going to kind of, I know you're a big proponent of that, and I'm not saying it's bad, but that's not what we're focusing on. We're going to focus on Pete Rose here for a few moments. So before we jump into these 5 questions that I've got for you guys, Ricky, tell me some stats on the guy who, to me, was the greatest baseball player to ever wear a Cincinnati Reds uniform and one of the greatest baseball players ever to wear a uniform, Pete Rose.
The greatest Red to ever wear a Reds uniform, played 24 seasons. 17 of those seasons, he was an all-star. He won Rookie of the Year, MVP, led the league in hits 7 times, led the league in doubles 5 times, won a Gold Glove twice, won a batting title 3 times, World Series MVP in 1975 as a part of the Big Red Machine. He has a career batting average of, I think, 306. He's got over 4,000 hits. He broke the all-time hits record on September 11th. It's just everything about Pete Rose screams Hall of Fame, and it's a shame that he let a gambling addiction ruin it.
Okay. I have really mixed feelings about this. I'm not going to try to get, especially I don't want to try to get too emotional as far as that part goes. This guy means a lot to me. I thought that he and his family have been hijinks for quite a number of years. So, yeah, I'm just gonna kind of leave it at that right at the moment. I'm going to put the different thing up here on the bottom of our screen here. I will tell you this. This is amazing. This has never happened before to us. You ready? This is pretty neat, actually. So I can see it at the top of the picture here that we've got 240 people right now with us live. All right. I'm streaming it on our X account. Sirhan's streaming it on his X account. And Ricky Logan is streaming it on his X account. And Gabriel is streaming it on his X account. So we've got 4 different X accounts streaming this right now. And do you want to know what the top 4 podcasts are on X right now?
Let's
For
go.
these 6,400 that have following us? Yes. Yes. So you all are laughing because I think you see where this is going. We are number 1, 2, 3, and 4. So thank you guys very much. You guys doing everything for us as well. We are only 9 people live away from 250. So we're cranking right along here. Here's my first question to you, and Ricky, I want to start with you. Again, I really have mixed feelings with this, but does the decision that was done today, I'm even wearing my Reds jersey and the whole 9 yards here for us. I know you got yours on too. Sirhan, did you get the memo?
No, that was just mine and Michael's thing.
Oh, okay. Okay, good.
Yeah. Okay.
I didn't want Sirhan to be in our club anyway.
No, yeah.
But
Okay.
he's like, fine. Bob and weave, man. Bob and weave. All right. So, does this honor Pete Rose, or is this all about MLB making money off of Pete Rose, Ricky?
I think at the end of the day, it's honoring him. It's a shame that it had to come to what it is, and Ellie De La Cruz just hit a home run to tie the game in the 9th.
No.
Anyway,
Look at that.
Going back to topic here, I think it's honoring Pete, and I'll tell you why. I think MLB could have been promoting him while he was banned and while he was alive, and they didn't. The Reds had to get special permission multiple times. I was actually at a game in 2010 where I think it was the first time he was allowed back, and They honored him. It was September 11th, 2010. They honored him for the anniversary of breaking the hit record, 4192. And they didn't really promote it. So they had every opportunity to do that. Now, the only thing I have a problem with is with Pete, MLB being so anti-gambling, but everywhere you look, something is sponsored by X gambling site.
Yep.
Or here's your analytic stat of the day brought to you by blank. And that's where I have a problem. Is you're condoning, you're almost setting guys up for failure, because you're telling guys, hey, don't do what Pete did, don't bet on games, but hey, you probably get a kickback or you probably get a free account or something. And I don't agree with that part of it.
Mm-hmm. And I'll be really honest with you. And I don't know, I've never really said this to Gabriel. I know that myself and Mitch had a lot of these conversations when we were first starting this podcast. We have been approached by multiple gambling partners to partner with our podcast. And I have refused to do so far because of what you just said. I don't really get into the gambling thing. I'm not a gambler per se. And I've been to Vegas a few times, and that's kind of fun. And I've put some money down on some games and stuff like that. I'm not going to try to tell you that I've never gambled in my life, because that would be a lie. But I'm not sure if I want to promote that and be sponsored by something like that because of this whole Pete Rose thing. So, Gabriel, I'm going to go to you next and ask, do you think that this honors Pete Rose, or is this MLB making money off of Pete Rose?
I wouldn't go that far to be that say it's the cynical and say it's the money aspect. There are probably better ways where if they wanted a quick buck where they could go about it. What I think it is more so, it's never too late to make a step in the right direction. This is something that just should have happened well before today. I think it's more the MLB trying to kind of save face and kind of trying to make up for something that they know that they fumbled the bag on. That, so for me, it doesn't have as much to do with the money aspect as more of the saying, "Oh, see, we did it," where most fans almost universally are going to be like, well, yeah, but you waited like a coward until he couldn't experience it anymore."
All right, so Sirhan, I don't know. Well, I'm sure you know, buddy. You're right there in Cincinnati. You're with the pulse of all this stuff. As we get really close to 250 right now, I'm got my finger on this button over here, wanting to hit it when we get there. Sirhan, do you think this was a coincidence that Major League Baseball announced this the day before that Cincinnati's going to do their big thing at the stadium tomorrow on the 14th? The number that Pete Rose wore today being 513. I know a couple of you have already talked about that on your X accounts and stuff today. It's May 13th, which is 513. And for those people who are with us that might not be in the Cincinnati area, you're like, what the heck are you talking about? Well, 513 is the area code for Cincinnati. So
we're a proud city.
Yes.
With nothing
Cincinnati
to be proud
is
of.
a very proud city. And you can tell by those hats, gentlemen. So do you
for
think all
those
this
that
was
don't
done-
know, this hat's a great cause. Ted Karras
Yes.
with the Cincy
Yeah.
hat. That's a great. He's probably the greatest thing that happened to the city, just based off everything he's doing
yes.
for the community.
Yes, I second what Ricky just said.
Sorry, Mike. Go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good. You can interrupt me whenever you want, man. It's your show too. The last time you're ever going to be on. Anyway, so
Oh, no.
he's done. Got that big fancy mic all of a sudden, and he in a big fancy hat, and headphones and stuff on. He thinks he's the man over here in the corner.
Watch
Got his own
out.
podcast and everything else. So, got a sponsorship now from Dubby Drinks and everything, man.
We're trying.
He's trying, man. I agree. He's doing great. So Sirhan over there, he's on every platform you can name. So he's like Vanna White over here with platforms. He just flipping out letters all over the place. So Sirhan, we're going to stick back and come back to you, and I'm going to ask you again: is this a coincidence? Because this is where I kind of think this might be Major League Baseball trying to make money off of this whole thing, and I'm not sure if they really care about Pete Rose, or at least not as much as they care about making money.
I said this to a few people that I've worked with today in person, that I call this thing the equivalent of a backhanded compliment, because due to the timing of all of this, and as you said, due to what's going up tomorrow, it's the evidence is there. I mean, the whole thing was. I mean, everybody that understood the whole situation knows this was going to happen when Pete Rose passed. It wasn't a matter of if, but a matter of when. The when part was probably going to take a little bit, but actually a little sooner than I thought. But I thought this whole thing was just the equivalent of a backhanded compliment, simply because everybody knew the backlash it was coming toward Major League Baseball since the day the decision was announced to the day he passed. And given that this came after, the day before what's going on at Great American Ballpark tomorrow, I'm with you guys. I second everything you said. It's not a coincidence, or whatever we want to put it. I mean, you knew. I mean, I think deep down they knew this was going to happen, and they knew the backlash they're already getting for what was done to him for the past, since the decision was announced to ban him. And I said this whole thing was just a backhanded compliment, and I still stick by my guns when I say that.
I got one question to ask you guys. Well, I don't know
Sure, buddy, go ahead.
Gabriel so much, but given the significance of the day, right? It's Cincinnati 513 day, area code 513. The Reds are playing the White Sox. Shoeless Joe played for the White Sox. Pete played for the Reds. It's known that the White Sox threw the World Series against the Reds. Is that why it happened today?
Got a strong case for it. Very strong case.
I mean, I listened to your show earlier today, and I got to pull these back down because, I'm an old man and I'm trying to type and do some other stuff all at the same time here. But you and your partner, who was your partner on the pregame show today, Ricky?
Today it was Alex Wallace. Normally I do it with Mike Hart.
Okay. So you guys were talking about this a little bit. I don't believe in coincidences. Let's just throw that out there right now.
Yeah.
Right? I don't like this. I told you when we first started this, I said I had mixed feelings. And I said I didn't want to get it's not really emotional. It's not the right word. You can't see it because, we have the round circles and my name's up there. But every time I'm talking, you might be able to hear it. I'm like smacking my fist into my hand, right? Because it upsets me. This was this was the best guy to ever wear a Reds uniform, bar none. There's not a person that's close in my book. This was top 10 of a person that ever wore a baseball uniform. And I agree with what Sirhan said. This is almost a backward slap. This is almost like, okay, well, now that he's dead, and if you read the press release, let me see if I can find it here. If you read the press release, I don't know if any of you did, from earlier today when they actually, and I put it up on our Twitter account at the643 and out pod. It's probably going to take me a minute to get to it, but kind of paraphrasing it, the one from Rod Manfred, not the one. Let's see. Okay, here it is. So, in a letter to the attorneys, the commissioner wrote, "In my view, a determination must be made regarding how the phrase permanently ineligible should be represented in light of the purpose and policies behind Rule 21, which is the gambling rule, which are to, number one, protect the game from individuals who pose a risk to the integrity of the sport by prohibiting the participation of such individuals, and two, create a deterrent effect that reduces the likelihood of future violations by others." Then he goes on and says, "In my view, once an individual has passed away, the purpose of Rule 21 has been served. Obviously, a person no longer with us cannot represent a threat to the integrity of the game. Moreover, it's hard to conceive of a penalty that has more different effect than one that lasts a lifetime with no reprieve. Therefore, I am concluded that permanent ineligible ends upon the passing of the disciplined individual, and Mr. Rose will be removed from the permanently ineligible list." So he's basically saying he still did a bunch of stuff wrong. He's saying, we still don't like what he did and all this kind of stuff. He's not. It's 100% a backward compliment. So it's like, okay, so then why is Major League Baseball doing this? And I think it's to make money, and it makes me sick.
I got a question for you guys.
Go ahead, buddy.
So based off
Before
everything you
I'm
just
hurting my other hand over here, pounding my fist into it.
so based on everything you just said, he was deemed ineligible while he was alive. So that makes him eligible when he's dead. Like everything he did while he's alive is what he did in the game. He can't do anything in the game when he's dead. So in a sense, you're basically saying that when he's dead, he's doing better for the game than when he was alive.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, so I don't like the way that it came out today. I think that the timing was terrible. I mean, not for Major League Baseball, but it sure was for Pete. And I think a lot of people are just going to see it and be like, "Oh, it's about time." And that's what we're going to get from the legions of fans is, "Oh, it's about time." And people are just going to kind of ignore how Rob Manfred stated it and kind of the backward compliment that was given to us.
It was worded very, very poorly after I just heard you read the particular press release. That was poorly worded, and the tone of voice didn't sound all that convincing either.
That's typical Rob Manfred, though, isn't it?
It is.
I mean,
Yeah, I've never
like
been the biggest Rob Manfred fan at all.
piece of metal, the whole Astros thing. It's just, yeah.
Right.
Continue.
Right. So, Gabriel, because we haven't heard from you for a while, I almost forgot you were there, buddy. You're over there sipping on your drink, and the rest of us are just
Gabriel.
gabbing right along here.
Sorry,
So,
Gabe.
This will be our Twitter poll question tomorrow. All right, so we're going to put this Pete Rose question up tomorrow for everybody to be able to vote on, and it'll be at 643 and Out Pod. That is the Twitter handle of the show. Once again, you're listening to the Sportz Truth. Myself, Mike Valentine. You got Gabriel Estrada up there in the corner. You got Sirhan Day down here at the bottom. And then this is how you pronounce it, is Day, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. And then Ricky Logan there in the bottom right-hand corner with the bright orange Cincinnati hat on. So, Ricky, here's this. So how do you think the vote will turn out? Now, he's not actually eligible until the 2027 season. I don't know if you know that or not.
Yeah.
It's not like next year he's going to be able to be voted on. They're making us wait for a few years, probably, again, to sell more stuff and to make more merchandise and to talk about it more on talk shows. But when he gets to the point to where he can be elected, he being Pete Rose, Gabriel, I'm going to let you answer this first, then I'll go to Ricky and then Sirhan. I'm going to give you 4 choices. How do you think the vote will turn out? Will it be unanimous? Will it be 85 to 90%? Will it be just above the 75% threshold that you need to get into the Hall of Fame? Or do you think that he won't make it at all?
It definitely won't be unanimous because that there will be a lot of baseball writers who value their vote in terms of we have to uphold the integrity of the game, and they're gonna come at it from I don't care what this latest is, what he did can't be forgiven. That's how some baseball writers will view it. So for sure it won't be unanimous. I think he gets in though. I think he'll be close because of the thing that I just said, but I think he'll get enough where it'll be a titch over the needed 75.
Okay, so you're going to go with just a touch over the 75, but that he will get in.
I think enough people are going to have their heads out of their behinds where the right thing is done.
All right. Ricky, what about you, buddy? I'm going to give you those 4 choices again here. They will be unanimous, 85 to 90, just above the 75% threshold, or he won't make it at all.
So I don't think it'll be unanimous.
Ricky, hang on. We're at 252. Go ahead, sir.
Let's go.
Let's go.
I don't think it'd be unanimous. The way I was looking at it, I think it was a Jeff Passan article said that the ERA committee will be the ones responsible for the vote, not the actual baseball writers. So I think that gives him a little bit of an advantage getting in. He can't get voted on until 2027, and luckily for him, the 2027 ballot isn't great. I think there's only like 2 players that I'm seeing that would be like almost guaranteed to get in, with one of them being Buster Posey. I can't think of anybody else in this list. I'll give you some names: Cole Hamels, Ryan Braun, John Lester, Brett Gardner, Ryan Zimmerman, Kyle Seager, Gio Gonzalez, Irvin Santana, Todd Frazier, Jake Arrieta. Like there's not a name that stands out as someone who will get a huge number of votes. I think it's gonna be spread out. But the era committee, I think that helps him in a way, just because I think they're gonna look at the era he played in. He was obviously the best player in the game throughout almost basically his entire career. And to add on top of all that, he was a switch hitter. Like that in itself, not only is he the best right-handed hitter, he's the best left-handed hitter. He hit it both. And I just think with the era committee, they used to be called the Veterans Committee. Now they've changed it to the era committee. And I think with him, I think him and Schuler both get in. But I think it's going to be close as in terms of votes.
Okay, so because it's not a great class, do you think that's going to be another kind of backhanded compliment? Do you think that I mean, really, do you think maybe that they knew that already? I mean, they know who's going to be in that class, right?
Yeah, and I think they made that call. The 2028 ballot, that's a good ballot. You got Albert Pujols, Robinson Cano, Yadier Molina, Edwin Encarnacion's going to be third year, Justin Upton, Anibal Sanchez. Like there's some names on there that have potential. Nobody screams other than obviously Albert Pujols, and I just lost it. Potentially, I don't know. Yadier Molina, maybe. Just he's
I
just
think Yadier would be.
yeah. And I think them getting it 2027 and not waiting until next year. Because the 2029 ballot's going to be great too. You got guys like Miguel Cabrera on that ballot. So 2027 going in the year of 2028 ceremony, that's probably the best chance he has in the next few years.
All right, so Ricky, I know this is kind of up your alley real quick before we get to Sirhan here. I'm going to put this up here. I want you to read this comment, then I want you to react to it. You ready? This is our guy JC, who is going to be our guest next week on the Sportz Truth right here, 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Here we go.
Shoeless Joe should be in before Pete. Same time. Put them in the same time.
Okay.
Agree.
I just wanted you to see it, and then you're
I said it. I said it. But
your guy that you do Roger Strauss that you do the Red Hot Reds with is telling us they're in extra innings.
Yeah,
so,
they just hit a 3-run homer in the top of the 10th, so it's not looking good.
All right, thanks for that, Ricky. All right, Sirhan, here we go back to you on this topic here. Which one do you think the vote will be, sir? Unanimous, 85 to 90%, just above 75%, or he won't make it at all? And let me put a caveat onto yours for the first year. Do you think that they will purposely not let him get in for the first year, and they'll allow him to get in later? Throw that caveat into yours.
There's a strong chance that happens. And as Gabriel said, there's going to be voters who's going to still use that against him. And basically, I still think he's going to get in just barely over the 75% mark, because I think eventually as the voters start to change, I guess they now call it what Ricky said, that the era of voting. So he was the best of his era, but they're still going to hold that against him. I wouldn't be surprised if the 2027 he does not get the votes to get in because of the reasons the two gentlemen there just said. But I think he eventually gets in, just passes the 75% mark, because there's still going to be people, especially deep baseball historians, who are going to be those voters who's going to use that against him and just find a way to prolong this as long as possible. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's not in 2027. I still think he eventually gets in, barely beating the 75% mark. But you raised a really good question, Michael. I think it's possible that due to all the things that Ricky and Gabriel just said about them holding it against him, we might not see it in 2027. which is probably the
Well,
best time to have it because the classes after that start to get a little deeper.
Right.
And then
Gabriel,
there
go
are
ahead.
going to be writers too that are going to not vote for him and have that be their badge of honor. Like,
Oh,
look,
yeah,
look
absolutely.
what
Oh, yes,
I didn't
I agree.
vote for.
Like
I
that
agree,
one
yes.
guy that didn't vote for Ichiro this year. The one
Oh, yeah,
guy. The one guy. Ichiro is a unanimous Hall of Famer. Not a
Oh,
not a
it's a
speck
no-brainer.
on his not a speck on his resume. The greatest hitter of this generation. He's our Pete Rose. And whether or not you were a fan of his, that's up to debate. You know, he played for the Mariners, he played on the West Coast. Not everybody got to see him play. But if you add his stats from Japan and here, he's got as many hits. He's pretty close to Pete's record. Now I'm not going to say Pete's record, he did it all MLB. That's Pete. But Ichiro could hit the ball, and he was also a great defender, great cannon for an arm, and that guy wore as a badge of honor to not vote him in.
Right. And I'm going to move my face over here to this side for a second because I want to turn it a little sideways and still keep sort of. Okay. So our Trey Hendrickson poll question is up right the moment. You can vote on that. We talked about Trey Hendrickson here before we did the Pete Rose stuff. What do you think the final outcome in the Bengals and Trey Hendrickson saga will be? It's really close right the moment. We got 22.2% for signed long term, plays out the last year, and Trey sits out. And the leader of the pack at only 33.33% is trade before the season starts. So that's interesting what our fans are thinking right at the moment. So we got 2 more questions here on Pete Rose, and then we'll bid you guys adieu. I know Sirhan and Ricky, it's getting late where you guys are in the Natty, so I'm going to get you guys out of here relatively soon. Gabriel, I know you're in New York as well, but you know what? I just don't care. Anyway, so you're obligated, buddy. This is our show. You're obligated, right? I want to throw this stat out here. NBA stat. We were talking about some of this stuff for the NBA off camera here earlier. We didn't talk about the NBA at all, even though they're into their playoffs and everything else. Myself and Dallas, who's actually, this is crazy. You ready for this? You know, Dallas is still streaming us on Sons of Star podcast on his account.
What a guy.
So we currently are, we're 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the only one that's beating us now, Ricky, I'm upset.
It's Ricky.
Chatterbox Sports is beating us right at the moment. They're at number 1. So,
They're also doing a Reds post game show live.
Right. They're doing a post game show live right at the moment. So could you tell them to calm down for us for a minute, okay?
Let me text Nick real quick.
Okay. All right. If you guys don't know, Ricky Logan works for Chatterbox Sports as well. So let me give you this NBA stat. We'll jump back into our last 2 questions of the Pete Rose saga. Here I've got 2 comments that I need to get to as well. We will certainly put them up, and we encourage you to comment as well. Here it is. The Cavs are the first team in either the MLB, NBA, or the NFL, or NHL. Got that? The 4 major sports is what we could say. They're the first team in the 4 major sports in its history to start a season with a 15-plus game unbeaten streak to be eliminated in the playoffs before the championship round of that particular year. So they made history tonight in a bad way. So I'm going to put this one up here. Let's see here. There we go. Let's ask this question. How will this decision that was made today affect the legacy of not only Pete Rose, but the legacy of Major League Baseball? Sirhan, I'm going to start with you. I'll repeat the question. Then I'll go to Gabriel, and then Ricky will be last on this one here because I want to give them the time, to keep watching the Reds game there because I see him looking up at it right there like that all the time, right? I'm sorry.
I've got my phone in front of me too. I'm trying to.
I know. I've got all kinds of stuff in front of me as well.
Notes
buddy.
and.
Yep. I get it. You're doing multiple things here. No matter what your wife says, you can multitask, right?
Just not with her, I guess.
Okay, no.
Oh,
well, hey, now it's a family show, sir. Family show. Okay, Sterling, we're going to go back to you.
I meant by
here.
paying attention.
So, Sirhan, how do you think this will affect not only the legacy of Pete Rose, that decision that was made today that he could now be eligible for the Hall, but how do you think this decision is also going to affect the legacy of Major League Baseball? Go ahead.
Well, given that how many times Major League Baseball shot themselves in the foot constantly over the last several years, I don't know how much of a legacy they have, especially when you consider how they handled the whole scenario in Houston with the World Series and all that fiasco. I don't know how much it really would affect Pete Rose because anybody like Rick, like the four of us know just how terrifically great he was. Of course, there's going to be some diehards who are still going to hold what he did against him. But I don't know. It's hard for me to say how much lower Major League Baseball can go because they've already shot themselves in the foot. And after you read their release on the whole situation with Pete Rose, doesn't even help their cause. So I don't know. Hard for me to see how low they can go because they've gone low pretty much over the last several years. So their legacy has already been destroyed. The product has been, to an extent, ruined by how they've done things over the last 5 to 6 years. But I don't think it impacts Pete Rose as much as people think because the real ones, like basically you, me, and Ricky, who lived through, especially here in Cincinnati, know what Pete Rose is, how great he was, and just the impact he had here in Cincinnati, not just with the Reds, but in all of Cincinnati sports, especially the night when he hit 41-92 that just packed Riverfront Coliseum in 1985.
All right. So, Gabriel, I'm going to go up to you, and I'm going to ask you the exact same question here as we now are approaching 275 people. I think we're going to get to that before the show is on tonight. How will this affect the legacy of both Pete Rose and Major League Baseball?
Oh, wait, that's a good question. The legacy, I think the damage is done in terms of how the public largely views baseball and how they've delayed this. Like I said, I view this, me personally, and I think most baseball fans will view this as, a half measure that's too little too late anyway. So and no one cares nowadays. No one cares about what Pete Rose was accused of and what Shoeless Jackson was accused of. So in terms of them as players, I am glad that they get now this elevated time in the sunlight again. So I think it helps the game in that sense, and certainly them and their individual legacies. I'm happy for that aspect. But in terms of baseball, I think everyone recognizes, like, what are you doing? Why did it take this long anyway? So I don't think this helps Major League Baseball in that aspect at all.
All right. Now, I will tell you guys, and yes, I'm kind of selling this, and I just wait for this last question. You think the 4 questions we've done right now are good? The 3 of them know what question's coming at the end because we share show notes. Wait till this last question. I think this will be telling for all 3 of us, and in fact, there'll be 4 of us because I'll have some comments on this last one as well. But Ricky, we're focused on question number 4 right at the moment. How will this affect the legacy of not just Pete Rose but also MLB in general, sir?
I don't think it affects Pete a whole lot. I think just people know who Pete was, whether or not it was about the person Pete or the player Pete. But for baseball, like Sirhan was talking, like baseball is such a mixed bag when it comes to handling situations. I'll leave it at that. I don't know about censorship. I will say DV cases. We'll leave it. I'm sure you guys know what DV cases are. Trevor Bauer with his situation, not evidence truly against him, and cases were dropped, and he's still blackballed. But you got players like Marcell Ozuna for the Braves, multiple domestic violence cases against his wife. Kind of a spotlight player on that team, and he's allowed to play. And then you go to the Dodgers. They've got the pitcher, I can't remember his name, but he had DV cases against him, and he's only suspended for half a season. And then you take it back even further. I think, and we're going to talk about it, but you've got the Hit King, who is just now eligible for Hall of Fame. The home run leader is not in the Hall of Fame. And it's just the way they handle just like the Astros scandal in 2017. The players admitted the cheating, and one of the guys who was the head of all of it is actually the leading candidate, leading vote getter for next year's Hall of Fame ballot, and Carlos Beltran. He's got the most votes going in the next year, and looks like he's going to get in next year. And he's the one that conspired the whole thing. And you call it a piece of metal the commissioner does, and that's just a slap in the face to everybody who gives their blood, sweat, and tears, surgeries, time away from their family to win this thing. It's a disgrace, and like just it's almost like they let certain players get away with things and other players not get away with it, and they use certain players as an example and some players as not.
Okay. Yes, I just realized that I made a mistake on this thing here, so let me edit it. All right, there we go. All right. It's by the way, the score is what, 5-1 now, Ricky?
Don't remind me.
Yeah. Okay, I'm sorry. All right.
Good having you on, Ricky. Good having you
Right,
on.
good having you on. Good having you on. So
Glad you guys are taking away the misery of being a Reds fan.
all right, so here's this final question. I'm gonna, because I wrote the questions and it's kind of my deal. I'm the guy controlling all this stuff. I'm gonna wait till the end and comment on this. But I'm gonna ask you guys who wants to go first on this final question. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
All right, so Gabriel's gonna go first. I'm gonna put it at the bottom here. It's gonna scroll across. I believe, as long as I did it right. Okay.
Oh, I can't
But
read
I'm going
though.
to ask the question first, and then I'm going to
thank
scroll it at the bottom. Okay. As long as the old man did everything he needed to do right here,
I have
we won't
faith
know
in you.
until I hit the button. So here's the question. I have to breathe first before I ask this question, because I think this is really going to be telling you. Here we go. Does the decision today, being that Pete Rose committed the quote-unquote cardinal sin, open the door for other, we'll call them sinners, like A-Rod, Roger Clemens, Rafael Palmeiro, and Barry Bonds? All right, so I'm going to ask the question again. Gabriel, you wanted to go first. I see that Spurs hat getting really tight on your head there, so you're thinking about this hard, right? Does the decision today, I'm going to put it up here on the screen. Look at that. He did it right. Does the decision today, being that Pete Rose committed the cardinal sin, as actually I got this from Bob Nightingale. He tweeted this out earlier. I commented on it. So did a whole bunch of other people. I started a storm. We won't put the word in front of storm, but I started a storm with that thing. So I wanted to put this at the end of our conversation here. A man, by the way, that I really respect than Bob Nightingale, but he asked this question, and I don't agree with it, and we'll talk about it here in a minute, but I'll let you guys go first. Does this decision today, being that Pete Rose committed the cardinal sin, open the door for other sinners like A-Rod, Roger Clemens, Rafael Palmeiro, and Barry Bonds? Gabriel, you got the floor, buddy. Go ahead.
Yeah, what it should show is that there are nuances and there are a lot of factors to consider in these types of things, and certainly no one has ever done something that is beyond forgiveness, depending on what they do after the transgression. And then what this should also show is that we need to evaluate the transgression itself. Transgression is a fancy word for you did something that you shouldn't have done. In the case of this possibly opening up the door, yeah, I'll tell you right now what I thought of, as because I'm a Red Sox fan. I was like, well, hey, Manny Ramirez, maybe not in life, but there's now an outside chance that he can get in now postpartum. Postpartum is a fancy term for after one deceases. So yeah, it definitely does open up that door and possibility, but it's far from a shoo-in. It's far from a certainty. Why? Because again, it's the baseball writers. They're not gonna just allowing this to happen. First of all, even this is going to be met with a lot of resistance. So if you're someone who is rooting for A-Rod or for Barry Bonds, or in my case, Manny Ramirez to get in, don't hold your breath, because if it's dependent on being postpartum and you're holding your breath, you might be joining that elite company.
Interesting take by my buddy up there, Gabriel. Baby faces, I like to call him. Look at that. All right, Sir Han, I'm going to come down to you and ask you the exact same question that's running across the bottom of our screen right there. And the question is this, sir. Does this decision today, being that Pete Rose committed the cardinal sin, open the door for other sinners like A-Rod, Roger Clemens, Rafael Palmeiro, and Barry Bonds?
A can of worms will be opened because there's gonna be some form of backlash when he gets in. You know it because of what Gabriel said. There's gonna be resistance from the baseball writers who's still gonna hold what happened to Pete Rose at his time when that time comes. Those are gonna be the same ones that are gonna hold the sinners accountable. But if he does get it in, out of knowledge, a can of worms is gonna be open. It's gonna raise some interesting conversations about the voting process, that what happens when that time comes, because we know the Pete Rose thing was basically the poster child of voting for this sort of thing in terms of cardinal sinners. And now we have all this that went on, with Bonds and Clemens, et cetera, et cetera. Once one of those gets in, I think a can of worms is going to be open for some very, very intriguing conversations at the very least. And because, as Gabriel said about the resistance, the same people that are going to have the resistance on Pete Rose will have the same resistance on those other sinners as the names were mentioned. It's going to be that exact same way when the time comes, if we get to that point.
All right, Ricky, I'm going to ask you the same thing, buddy. I'm going to repeat the question one more time because, again, this take on yours is going to be a little interesting, I think, too. So, does this decision today? Yeah, I'm ready. Right? Does the decision today, being that Pete Rose committed the cardinal sin, open the door for other? And this is my term, by the way. I called them sinners. This is not what Bob Nightingale said. I did this. I said other sinners like A-Rod, Roger Clemens, Rafael Palmeiro, and Barry Bonds.
I have two takes. So
Of course you do.
this is going to be a long answer.
Okay.
So baseball in no way, shape, or form has the right to use this Pete as the opening of a can of worms, because the can of worms was opened when David Ortiz got elected into the Hall of Fame. In 2003, David Ortiz was a part of the anonymous survey that all the players were doing as a part of the Mitchell Report, and he tested positive for a banned substance. So with David Ortiz getting in the Hall of Fame, he is essentially the first steroid player to get into the Hall of Fame. With that being said, there are plenty of terrible people in the Hall of Fame, and there are plenty of good people not in the Hall of Fame. So with all of that, I think it's good.
We got a bunch of comedians out here right now. That's pretty good, though.
I think I'll use Barry Bonds as an example. He never had a positive test on anything. There's been plenty of speculation. There's been plenty of evidence for it, but he's never had a positive test. Never documented, I should say. With Sammy Sosa, there was documented tests. With Mark McGwire, there was documented tests. There was pills behind him in his locker in the clubhouse. There was the Jose Canseco name dropping the entire league, who he somehow was the only one injecting all these players. And for me, it seems like with the steroid era, people only think that it affected hitters. And I think that needs to be an example that pitchers were also using, like Rob Clemens, Eric Gagne, just to name a couple, that it was kind of like an even playing field during the time. So it's almost like the dead ball era had its own era. Nobody could hit. There was the live ball era, the modern era, the steroid era for that 9-year window. And it just so happened that Barry Bonds was great before that, and he was great during. It helped his numbers, absolutely. But with Pete, it's never been documented with Pete that he bet against his team. It's just been documented that he bet. There was never any, because they used his gambling slips as evidence to ban him. And it was never shown that he bet against the Reds. And for one, it was from 85 to 89 when he was betting. So if you take his stats up until 1985, he's still got over 4,000 hits and all this. Like, just if you're going to ban him from the 4 years that he was doing all the terrible stuff, gambling, and he's still a Hall of Famer. And you can make that same argument for Barry Bonds. He was a Hall of Famer from 1986 to 1997. With that being said, it's not a great look when you have players, especially in the steroid era, who cheated. And had other players taken liberty, like let's just say an example as a Reds fan, Ken Griffey Jr., had he used, because it's been documented that he hasn't used, could he have recovered from the injuries better and played longer, and he would have had a better career as a Red? So I guess a long-winded answer is I don't think it's a terrible look just because the can of worms has already been opened.
Okay, so I think there's a huge difference here, and none of you touched on it. I was really hoping that nobody would. That was my fear in going last here, was that somebody was going to take the thunder that I'm about to hit everybody with here.
Oh wait, Michael.
That's this. Yes, go ahead, buddy.
Sirhan needs to go too.
Oh, is Sirhan not gone yet?
No.
No, I went.
Oh, my fault. Ignore me.
Well, that's fine. I usually do, sir.
Fair.
Hey, no, well, wait a minute. Did he go? Now you've got me rethinking everything.
Yeah, I
Sirhan,
went
did
last.
you go before
I
Rick?
went last.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
that's what
I went.
Okay,
Yeah, I went
okay,
before
okay.
Ricky.
No,
Okay.
my fault.
Hey,
I had a long answer.
So here's the thing, right? Roger, Raphael, Barry, Barry Bonds, all of them. The big difference between them and Pete Rose is they have all been on the Hall of Fame ballot already. They had their chance to do it. The writers had their chance to put them through if they really wanted to. And they all chose not to. None of those guys got in. Let me go back to the, A-Rod didn't get in. I think he's actually still available on the ballot right at the moment. Roger hasn't. Barry hasn't. Rafael Palmeira hasn't. None of those guys have been in, and they've all gotten chances. Pete Rose never got a chance. Shoeless Joe Jackson never got a chance. The writers and things didn't get to decide because not only Rob Manfred, but Bart Giamatti before him decided it for everybody. I just want Pete to get a fair share. I'm not going to be upset if he doesn't get in, but I want him to be on the ballot so that he gets a fair shake. And he has the same shot as everybody else do. And he's actually not going to get that shot either, because as Ricky pointed out earlier, it's not going to be the actual Hall of Fame ballot that he's going to be on. It's going to be the people who have already been put into the Hall of Fame, from my understanding, is they're going to be able to. What's the new name of the committee? It used to be called the Veterans Committee. What's it called now, Ricky?
The Era Committee.
The Era Committee. So, from my understanding, the Era Committee are people who are already in the Hall of Fame, and they get to vote on these guys. So he's still not going to get the same shake that all the other people that we've mentioned got, but at least he's going to get something. And I hope when he gets that something, that it gets him into the Hall of Fame. And I pray that he gets in on the first year, even though I'm a little skeptic. Especially if this is something that MLB is trying to make money off of. Think if they do this every year for like 3 or 4 years. It'll be breaking news, right? Is Pete Rose going to get into the Hall of Fame this year? And so it'll be interesting to see how all of this unfolds. Anybody want to add anything to the end before this is our final question? I certainly appreciate all of you guys. Anybody want to add anything to the end? Gabriel, I'll start with you. You want to add anything to the end, bud?
Can we talk about the shoeless Joe Jackson aspect for a half second?
Sure.
The reason why I view that he should obviously be in, and you have to say obviously. So, and again, I don't know if you know this or not, gentlemen, but I wasn't there in 1919. But from what I've
Breaking
read,
news.
Breaking news by Gabriel. Oh, sorry.
Also home games teams tend to do better. I don't know if you knew that, Ricky and Sirhan.
Yes.
But
you figured that out too.
But from what I've read up on, Shoeless Jackson, he was not illiterate, but he wasn't very, it's questionable his education level. So people are using his confession against him, but more likely than not, right? Some jerks use fancy words to try to sound smarter than what they are, as Michael has pointed out today. But in the case of Shoeless Joe Jackson, what more than likely happened was he was just kind of forced to sign something, having no idea what it actually said or what it meant when you say, hey, do you want to admit to this guilt? He probably thought he was just doing what he had to do in that moment. But as Ricky said, not only did he have those great stats, it was a best-of-9 series. No errors as an outfielder. Let's also remember that. But had he wanted to throw in that game, best-of-9 series. So the Cincinnati Reds were up 4-1. It would have been so easy to just lose that 5th game, but instead the Sox won 2 straight, came back, made it something of a series. So I really don't see the argument. And we talk about all those hits. When runners were in scoring position, he was excellent. So I really don't buy this at all that he was involved whatsoever. And then never mind that the committee found that he was innocent, or the jury found that he was innocent after the fact. So the fact that now Shoeless Joe Jackson gets to come in, I think, is one of the better things of all of this. They faced a good Reds team. I mean, they were called the Black Sox for a reason. The two rosters just weren't even. But you know who made it close? You know who at least made it something of a series? Mr. Shoeless.
Wow, I said a little something. No, you're good, Sirhan. You want to add anything to the end of this? By the way, hang on. Let me. 280, by the way, 280, gentlemen. Is the music too loud in the background? I'm trying to figure all this out. Can you even hear it?
Faint.
Faint? Okay, that's what I wanted, was faint. Sirhan, you want to add anything to the end of this, buddy?
Now, I just want to trace back to when we talked about Trey Hendrickson. I tried to talk about this before we went on to Pete Rose. It needs to be said, he wanted to stay here all along. The team wanted him to stay all along. The problem was they were going to stay on. Bengals wanted him to stay under their terms and their value. Trey Hendrickson wanted to stay on his terms and his value, and that was where everything just fell apart. He wanted to stay. His family was here. He loves it here in Cincinnati, and he definitely wanted to stay. The problem was, as the four of us talked about, because of the lack of communication all the way around, this thing's just falling apart, and now that's why we're in the situation we're in. But he wanted to finish his career here in Cincinnati. Had Cincinnati taken care of him the way they should have, he probably would have been a Bengal for life. But now, here we are with all of this.
All right, Ricky, I'll give you a couple seconds here. What do you want to add to the end, bud?
I'll just say that Shoeless Joe is, in his era, is up there with Ty Cobb, and Pete Rose is in a level of his own. So put them both in the Hall of Fame.
All right, sounds
I agree.
fantastic. Sirhan, tell me, where can our fans get you at, sir, as we end everything here?
You find me at the X platform at Twitter handle Sirhan on X. That is where I do my live stream show and podcast, which can also be streamed live on Facebook, YouTube, as well as the Rumble platforms. And if you can miss out on the video platforms, I do the audio uploads live on the Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, and Spotify apps.
You know why I had you do that, Sirhan? That I never remembered all of that. That's why I had you do that. Gabriel, talk to me, buddy. Hey, where can we get more content from Gabriel Estrada?
We're on at Sports Pulse 100. Really just trying to share more and engage with great people like Michael, Sirhan, and Ricky here. So thank you all.
That's fantastic. And I'm real close. 298. Can we get to 3? I don't know. We're about to find out.
Do we need
I'm
another
almost
hot take
stalling
to
see
get
if
it
we can
going?
get the 3 on purpose. All All right, Ricky, tell us where everybody can get your stuff.
Yeah, you can find me at weLikeSportsPC.com. I write for the Reds on there. You can find me on X at It's Ricky Logan. X at the Red Hot Reds Pod. Instagram, Red Hot Reds Podcast. We try to share some reels, some clips. We got some interviews coming up. We've had some pretty cool interviews in the past. Just a lot of fun working for Chatterbox Sports, doing their pregame show on Fridays and whatever other day they need me to fill in. But it's a lot of fun.
Right.
It's editing for you on We Like Sports and just trying to get that Pete Rose article out as fast as I could while I was trying to manage taking notes for this show and finishing up the pregame show. It was a wild afternoon.
Yes, it was. And by the way, 301 right at the moment.
Nice.
Fantastic job by all four of you guys. Yes. And as we say, at the end of every one of these shows, turn this up a little bit in the background for the volume. Once again, thank you to Gabriel, Ricky, and Sirhan on the topics that we have done today. And also thank you from Dallas, from Sons of Star podcast, who was on with us for our first hour. What we always say is this: the only thing that's fair in life, ladies and gentlemen, is the baseball hit between the third and first baseline. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all very much.